the nature of the human race is that the human race has always believed it's known everything. Even the cavemen thought they had it all figured out, and they knew everything there was to know about everything, because that's where mythology came from. It's constructing some kind of context for the unknown.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
It's irresistible. He's certainly the coolest, most rock and roll looking god that I have ever seen.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
Dark greetings.
Hello.
Dark greetings.
Dark greetings.
Greetings of the darkest kind.
Al, I still can't get used to you without your beard. I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to take an adjustment.
Yeah.
That is a super literary encounter.
This
Literally.
Is
True.
borderline.
Literally encounter.
We already have some comments. We have Scott Johnson, Superlit 14. Well, there will be plenty of spoilers because we're getting into even more familiar territory now. It is getting borderline super literary. Good to see you, Maxwell. So today we are going to be talking about Interlude III, which is the last interlude of the book, I believe, as well as chapters 70, 71, and 72 of Supernatural Encounters, the Trial and Transformation of Arhul Hextrophon. So to start us off, Ken, why don't you give us your thoughts on these parts, chapters 70, 72, and the interlude?
All right. I mean, I'm not the best with speeches, but the interlude, it was good. It's short, but interludes, I like that. 70, all the stuff with the Dark Jedi and the formation of that and the first Great Schism, that was interesting. I love that. Arden Lynn, I might talk about her once we get to that. But 71, I thought was a little boring. Didn't really think it was interesting. But of course, Joe's prose is beautifully written, so it kept me going. And then 72 is the whole meat of this stream. Cult stuff, rich, snobby people. We get to talk about Suzal. I love him. He's a snobby guy. And yeah, he's a great character, of course. And how it connects to the Hell Hoop. Get to see that. So.
Yes. Back to the old Marvel, what was it, like Empire Strikes Back monthly comics? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah. How about you, Al?
Back in my day. So the interlude was great as usual. It was very sad because you kind of know at this point it's the end. It's the end for our good buddy Hex, which is sad. But it was pretty short. So nice bite-sized thing. 71 was enjoyable. I liked it. I didn't, until the very end, I did not make any of the connections until I saw the name of the Grandmaster, whose name I forgot to write down, of course.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. For some reason, it just didn't click in my mind. But that was really good. 72 was fantastic for me. I'm a little bit switched with Ken here because I like the stuff with the Hell Hoop, but I'm not as interested in that. The stuff in 72 with the KOTOR connections, especially Manon, giving me a good Manon story for the first time ever in recorded history. Now that's something interesting. And then 73 was pretty good. Finally gave us the answer to how Wootsek got in the jar from that one issue. So yeah, awesome, great stuff.
That's awesome. How about you, Alex?
Well, I will be completely honest. I got home a bit late, so I read the interlude. Fantastic. I agree. It was definitely felt like the Lovecraft sort of thing of the dark things are coming. He could feel it in his mind, and it's definitely coming to a close for him. I mean, we already saw him go, but it's sad going backwards and getting to learn about him, and then only to know that that's still the outcome. And the same thing with I read all the Zender chapter, and that the whole section there, and that was really good. I agree with that. I skimmed the rest, but from memory, I agree with everything that Al said.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, you skimmed the rest because you'd already read that part.
Yes, I've read the whole thing. Yeah, just a while back before Legends Con.
Yeah. How about you, Max?
Okay, so the interlude was freaky. There's like some very like paranormal activity type things going on. It was short and sweet, but it was so great to read. Catching up with Hex after being in the such dark realms of the universe and learning of all these big entities. And then chapter 70 regarding Zendor and the First Great Schism was probably my favorite of this because there's so many cool little tidbits of lore to a familiar part of Star Wars lore that we already know, but adding more to it. And then, I find that kind of era of history really fascinating. What is it? 71 is great with the Tale of Protest, which is like the tale from the Iowa pod, which is really cool. And then there's even more expanded upon that short little story that's like 2 pages. And then 72 was like a big like surprise for me because like I went into it and I was like, like I don't know if this chapter would be like for me. And then like it started like getting even better. I was like, "Ooh, wow, this is really good." And then it connected to the Hell Hoop comic and Wutzek, and it was so cool. And I love seeing where that chapter ended and like the revelations it had and the things we saw in that chapter, which we'll get into, were really freaky and really like, ooh, just the dark things of other space. And I loved it. So
That's
I'm
great.
absolutely here for it.
That is great. We're all here for it. And I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you for this amazing comment. This is really nice to hear. We appreciate everybody tuning in, even if it's just for a little bit, just to say hi. Darth Sidious, always good to see you. We got some Sith things going on later on in the chapter. Sorcerers of Rand. I think it's like chapter 72 is when we get to that stuff. I will say that when I read this, I think I posted in our group chat, every single time I finished like an aspect of it, I was like 70, amazing, 71, like a banger. Like every single thing that I read, every single page that I read for this specific stream was awesome. I had like no criticisms whatsoever. I'm gonna go against the grain here and say that my favorite part was the progenitor's tale in chapter 71. That story.
Oh, so you're
yeah. What? I'm the what?
No, you and I are on the same page here.
Yeah.
I was about
okay.
to say. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So that whole sequence gave me chills. I could see it so clearly in my mind. And I'm not like a visually imaginative reader. I comprehend the words for themselves. Like I don't really project into my mind that much. I have trouble doing that sometimes, but the prose was such that I could just see exactly what was going on. So much so that I almost want to take that part and like write a full length novella, because that is just like the stuff of nightmares. And I'm gonna get into it because to me that was like maybe the most Lovecraftian thing cool. that we've read in a while, and it just really struck a right chord with me. And so as much as I love the Zendor stuff, and I loved Suzal Dunbar and all that stuff that came afterwards, that kind of middle piece for me is amazing. But before we even really get into the interlude, I got to ask, now that we've read all 3 interludes, which one is everybody's favorite?
First.
Oh, or which order are we going in?
Well, there's the
no, I know
between the wildflowers and the weeds. Oh, which order? Yeah, Alex, if you have something to say, you say it.
Oh, well, I mean, you said it. That's the best. It's the best part of the book for me, in terms of Hex specifically. Actually, if I have to pick a top 3, it's a 1,000-page book. I'm allowed to do that. Then the top 3, one of the top 3 part of the whole book for me is that whole section with him and his dad. That was phenomenal.
Okay. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
so that is mine.
Nice.
Mine is probably the problem of droid abuse.
Me too.
The problem with droid abuse. And you know what? It's really like splitting hairs at this point, because I think all 3 interludes are fantastic, and maybe some of the strongest parts of the book in terms of just like letting Joe's narrative style shine through. Because like I almost challenge anyone who says, oh, the prose in this book is too complex. Like, yeah, that might be the case in some like book 3, for instance, when it gets really kind of archaic, intentionally so. But read the interludes. I think with the problem with droid abuse, he really captures C-3PO and R2-D2. He really captures their characters in a way that I haven't really seen since like the Bantam era. So it's really nice to see that in this novel, in this tome. And so I would probably rank them. For me, it'd be 2, 1, and then 3, but not to suggest 3 is like by any means like less or bad or anything like that. It's the shortest, so there's not as much there for me to kind of grasp onto, but I still love 3. I thought it was, again, very Lovecraftian in tone.
I think just to add before I sorry, Al, I just want
you're good.
to explain, because this whole book is Arhul's work, right?
Yeah.
But we don't really get to know that much about Arhul because most of this is about his studies.
Right.
So in the short couple pages we have dedicated to his life in that seeds section, I fell in love with the character, and it's shorter than a short story, or it might be the length of a short story. But the point is that I think Arhul's awesome, and that's mainly due to that section in particular, and it felt really emotionally connecting to me, even though it was very short. And so I think that's why it just stuck with me. But sorry to in front of Al.
We love your thoughts. That's why you're here. I think Al had said his favorite was also the second one.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's funny. As much as I love supernatural encounters, it kind of makes me wish there was just an Arhul Hextrophon story on its own, its own novel of him, because he's such a great character. Which I think, man, there's so many things in here that's like, oh, that would be a great novel. But to me, if I had to pick one, it would just be Hex on his own, or like a comic or something, something just a little bit more of that character. So,
agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. How about you, Ken?
First one, easily.
First one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think we're all generally in some form of agreement that the first two we like the most, but we're about to talk about the third one, so let's get into it.
The third one also has an excellent title: "The Stars Will Fall, Then All Will Die." That's cool. Come on.
Yeah.
Love that.
It reads like one of those kind of like Clark Ashton Smith or Lovecraftian short stories where it starts off, "It is a week after my return home," and we see how Hex is a changed man at this point, right? Like, he's seen things that no mere mortal should see. He's learned things that no mere mortal should learn, and now he has to live with the price of that terrible knowledge. But I mean, I guess perhaps even mercifully, he doesn't have to live with it for very long, because the shadows are manifesting. They're on him, right? And this Interlude 3 directly precedes the prologue of the book, where we see Hex meet his end.
Rip.
Hello, good to see you, sir.
Hi.
How you doing?
And again, when I talk about kind of Lovecraftian in scope, it says I think it's between 732 and 733. It says impossible angles of non-Euclidean planes, like something that's something you'd read in Lovecraft, in my opinion, right? Like this idea of impossible angles,
or impossible colors.
Impossible colors too. That's right. So I mean, it's just like this part, for instance. I think it is on page 733. It says, "It seems like very long ago that I'd thought and behaved as they do, refusing to see that which could not be measured in terms of conventional means. I do not miss the blind comforts of untruth, a mindset of arrogance and pride that arose from our ever-evolving marvels that told us we were masters of reality rather than its servants, glancing at but the barest fractions of truth, missing the dunes for the grain of sand, consigning the desert to mirage." That's kind of how I feel after reading this book. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. It's very Lovecraftian, and I think it's appropriate for this part of the book, right? Because he's probably now kind of contending with madness. Like, how can you live with what you know and not go crazy? Right? But yeah, we learn that the darkness is coming for him, right? And he knows that as himself. Sorry, go ahead, Al.
Oh, no, this is sort of an aside, but how do you guys imagine Hex? Like, when you... I know, Marcel, you just got done saying you don't really imagine things like that, but...
Yeah, it's tough for me.
Any of you guys, how do you try to imagine Hex, like, in your mind? Like, is there, like, an actor you have in mind, or, like
Well, I mean-
like an image.
The guy
have
from
the,
A New Hope.
Oh yeah, but that's like,
That's
see,
fine.
well, that's the thing. Like, but I think what Al's saying is like, and I talked about this, I think, privately with Marcel at one point, or no, maybe it wasn't Marcel, maybe it was Brennan, maybe it was on the interview. I don't remember, but like Booster, Tarek has a look like we have images of him, but I always imagine him fat. But I don't think
So do
he's
I
fat.
actually.
But I imagine him
I
fat.
think we all kind of do.
So you can imagine Arhul differently, even if we know what the actor looks like.
For
Go.
for me, I have to do this thing in order to keep things consistent in my mind and not annoy me. I have to like find like a real actor and kind of imagine them specifically, because otherwise it'll be changing every other word, and I'll get annoyed at myself. So even though he does have a real actor from the movie, I went with Patrick Stewart because Jean-Luc
that's
Picard is
good.
an archaeologist, and I was like, all right, we'll go with that. That's fine. But yeah, I was just curious. I meant to bring this up Interlude, but I forgot.
For me, I just go with the actor from A New Hope. Can't think of
Yeah.
his name right now, but that's usually what I go for. But I definitely agree with you, like finding like an actor and visualizing them as the characters in the books, like specifically like for like Jaina Solo and Jason, I picture them as like the characters, like the actors in the fan film from Legacy of the Force. That's how I picture them, you know. So, or like if I'm reading,
It took me
like,
forever.
Do you want to see how I picture Arhul Hextrophon?
Oh God, I already
Oh,
know
no.
what it's gonna be.
As
What,
Al.
do you?
I have two
Okay.
guesses.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. That's the better one.
Yeah.
I was going to say Tom Selleck, but that one's
I
more
thought it
reasonable.
was
That
either
one's
gonna
fair.
be Tom Selleck.
I
Or
mean,
Rick Astley.
Joe
Yeah.
clearly put his heart and soul into Arhul, so it kind of is like,
Right? I
works.
just
Well,
can't help it. Like you asked me,
you
like,
know-
how do you picture it? Like, that's what I picture
That's
him
fair.
as.
That's fair.
you know, the funny thing was, I wasn't trying to be pretentious, but I was gonna say, like, because I don't think I've imagined him as actually anything, but I always, it's weird. So like, sometimes I'm reading it and I see the actor.
This comment's so good. It is. Continue.
Sometimes I read it and I'm seeing Joe Bongiorno.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Sometimes I
Okay.
read it and I'm not trying to be like super, like purposely trying to be like, oh, look at me. I'm just saying. Sometimes I read it like there are certain parts during the seed section that I talked about where I saw myself when I was reading it, because it struck a chord with me, and I don't know, I really related to some of it, and so I
do
don't
that
know.
too.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like I didn't actually see myself, but it felt
I
like
mean,
me. I don't know if that makes
I
sense.
totally get that.
Yeah.
I dressed up as the character for Halloween.
You
so I
did.
totally-
And that's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like Arhul Hextrophon is one of those characters where we, you know, regardless of our background, we can cast ourselves in that role because
We are all
he's a
Arhul
very
Hextrophon.
like he's a very human character and he
Mm.
feels very human emotions that we can all relate to.
Especially
So-
because like he's like a nobody character, you know.
He's just a normal guy.
Like he's just a guy. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have any like force powers. He's not like a, you know, smuggler with a heart of gold. He's not like a royal person. Like he's just a guy. Like
Yeah.
he's
He's
you
not
know,
even like a fighter pilot. He's
no,
literally
he's
just
just
a
a
guy.
dude. He's just a guy, and
Yeah,
that's I think that's so great.
He's the most average Joe you could possibly get. Average Joe.
But seriously, in a galaxy where everybody's consigned to a role, they're like a heroic smuggler, or they're like a Jedi or a Sith, or
Mm.
you know, an ensign. Like they all have like something. Like Hex
Even
is-
Gent is like the master slicer.
right? They're all like kind of
Right.
good at like Hex is just like your average person,
Yeah.
and that's where
Yeah.
maybe where the appeal comes from, more than many characters, right?
An average guy who saw too much.
It's like
Yes.
we all want to be, you know, the Jedi or the Sith. Maybe not the Sith, but the Jedi who, you know, saves the day. But
Sometimes you want to be the Sith.
I feel like in
Okay.
reality, we just want to be Hex, not, you know, getting consumed by shadow demons. But we just, you know,
We'd
we
be
just
lucky.
yeah.
We'd be lucky to be Coleman Trevor, but in reality, you know, we're probably just going to be unnamed rebel.
Who's that?
And
That
Hex if we're really
master
lucky.
from the Clone
Yeah,
Wars?
who died instantly?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
die or something like that.
I'm a Gundai.
I'm
Ima
a good
Gundai.
guy. Yeah. Okay.
Or
It's
some,
ridiculous.
some of us are Rick Goley.
Yeah, but
Oh God,
to finish off the interlude, at least
it's
the,
Joe
sort of
Bongiorno.
the narrative part of it, it's Joe Bongiorno.
I just picture Arhul as a Paw Patrol character, to be honest.
Well, okay, thank you.
The
Which
entire
one?
book is one big supernatural encounter.
No, but like for real, I don't see him as anybody. I just see like he's me. He's all of us. Really.
Of course, I know him. He's me.
Can we get like
Of
Rick
course I
Oley
know.
on cameos or something? I'll pay
there's
for it.
no
Get
way.
him to do like a 30-second. We can play it on like the last stream or something like that. That was a supernatural encounter.
That would be so good.
Oh my God.
That over there was a supernatural encounter.
So to finish off the interlude, at least the narrative
There's a
portion of it,
blockade.
basically things start happening, and Professor Miskatonic that we talked about in I think our very first stream, and Q9 start noticing, right? Like this is almost it plays like a demonic possession movie, right? Like things start happening around Arhul. And we're told like things escalated. One day, the delivery man, a friendly chap who regularly brings food and supplies, froze in place after depositing our provisions.
So freaky.
Yeah, unresponsive to voice or touch, he was silent for a considerable time before he began whispering. The words were inaudible at first, but they grew in volume until they drowned out all other sound or thought, for they were nothing less than a sinister refrain of that hateful black speech that once threatened and mocked us from the lips of Ariana. Ken, do you mind reading us what that line was?
That's so freaky.
It's at the end of the interlude.
Okay.
It starts with the gates are opening.
That's right.
Okay. The gates are opening. They who blaspheme and boil in the outer darkness have awoken. The stars will fall. Then all will die.
That's so freaky.
Yeah, that's like
This is why you don't talk to the people coming to the door. You just
That's-
take your
Just
thing.
don't
and
talk
leave.
to the shadow people, dog. Like they're just gonna come steal your soul.
that's like a Event Horizon level horror right there.
Honestly, that's what I was thinking when I read this.
Yeah, that's kind of
Arnold
what
just
I,
opened a portal to hell.
It's
Yeah.
just so freaky. It's just like the gates are opening. Like just imagine like your mailman, like he just freezes in place in front of your house and starts saying some of this stuff, and you're just like, what the hell?
His eyes.
That's a
just-
fun game to play. Like next time you're at work, next customer comes up, just look them dead in the eye and say, "The gates are opening," and then don't say another thing. Just walk away and see what they do.
As someone who works at the box office for the movie theater, that would
Oh
be
my god!
perfect.
Do it to the old people. Do it to an old person. Look an old person right in the eye. And go. The gates are
The gates are
opening.
opening.
yeah, you gotta roll your eyes upwards so we only see the whites of them.
Oh no!
Just turn into a total demon and see what they do. They might kill you. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what? You know what's funny?
I'll get
Max,
fired.
is I've finally gone around Stranger Things season 4. I'm still like I watch like an episode a week, so because they're so long. But Vecna is always like Maxine.
It's so freaky. I remember I was
looks like
watching
a
that. I was
Vong,
like having
doesn't
nightmares.
He
What?
looks like a Vong.
He does
Yeah,
look like a
he does
Vong.
look
He
like a
does.
Vong.
I was
Yeah.
going to repurpose an action figure of him as a Vong, but I decided not to spend the money.
But no,
Too much.
it's so freaky. I remember when I was watching it, I was like having nightmares, like it's just saying my name in this creepy voice. I was like, ooh.
That's right. Yeah. So any last thoughts on the interlude before we move on?
I think it's great stuff. Very, very scary.
All I'm saying is that
I'm sad it's the over.
they should be listening to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to that mailman.
Listen to
Okay,
Arhul,
well-
man. He's
Yeah, it does.
he
But
knows
they
what he's
won't.
talking about, but they're not going to believe him.
Because if the rest of the franchise moving forward, no one listens about it or does anything about it. So
Yeah. I've seen some
Rep.
tie-in books and comics around, but I haven't really gotten into them. So chapter 70, Zendor and the First Great Schism.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I guess we'll never. Okay. I guess we do know.
Whoa,
I was
he
gonna say,
said,
we'll
look at him.
never
He's got
know.
like the channel, like plaid pants on. Wow,
Yeah.
snazzy.
Good to see you, Matt. Thanks for popping in.
Did you get those pants for your birthday, Alex?
No, I've had these for a while.
Oh,
You just
okay.
don't see but the
Also
lower
happy
half
birthday.
of you just don't see the lower half of it. So
You don't. Your whole lower half doesn't exist. Like it's.
yeah, no,
Just you.
no, it's like a video game. Like if it's not in the frame, then it doesn't exist because it doesn't want to
It
render
doesn't
that.
exist.
No, we started with Interlude 3, Darth Sidious, and now we're going to talk about Chapter 70, which is Zendor and the First Great Schism, and it starts off. I wouldn't be. You still have
The
at least a few
mailman
days to live.
fine and ran.
This is why you don't go outside to get your mail. Just stay inside, watch them as they go, and then like creep out during the night. That
You know,
that way they can't talk to you.
Al, did you know the gates are opening?
The
do you
stars
think
will, the stars will fall, then all will die.
Yeah.
Why did you say that with like Riz? Like you were trying to like Riz up Al. You were just like gates are opening. Like you were trying to like put the
What-
moves on in there.
What does it mean to riz up someone?
He was trying to
No.
put the moves on. He was to Riz him up.
I wasn't.
He's
Apparently, I
just
didn't
like-
come off as scary. I came off as a cool.
You came off more as Lando than as the
I
man.
Yeah, he
guess
went.
so.
He went. Gates are opening. Like, he was like,
Oh, that's
like, whoa.
that's way scarier. Now that that's way scarier.
Also,
You know what, my
You came up to
favorite-
me in the
yeah,
club
flirting
and you're
gets
like,
worse.
the gates are opening.
I know we all said it yesterday, but happy belated birthday to Alex. It was his birthday
Oh,
yesterday.
Happy
Thank
belated.
you.
Happy birthday, Alex.
He
Thank
turned.
you. Gates
He
are
turned
opening,
50
boy.
He turned 15. Just
Yeah, I'm top 15, guys. I'm a child. Thank
Alex,
you for
imagine, like-
staging me back.
So, this chapter starts off with it talks about the Sith and the Stygian caldera at the end of the Cosmic Wars, and there's this interesting concept that's introduced. We're told that the Sith of the Stygian caldera, so those would be the traditional red-skinned Sith that we learn about in Tales of the Jedi, Golden Age of the Sith, and Fall of the Sith Empire, but they move away from this concept of unity to moral dualism. So they are very much focused on light versus dark, and I think what that's telling me is that they define themselves in opposition to the light, whereas the concept of unity, which I think still lives on in the true Sith Empire, is all about this idea of, the only thing that exists is the dark, and everything else is kind of an aberration of that, and the dark is eventually going to consume everything and reassert itself as the only natural state. And so that's I think generally the concept of unity. But we're told that the sorcerers of Tund serve as the vanguard of this true Sith Empire, with malefic thaumaturges such as Karnak the Maleficent acting as agents of discord, serving the true Sith as prophets and pawns for the infernal gods. So the true Sith, they're very much keeping well, maybe we'll see when we get to chapter 72, but they're very much keeping the religion of old with the ancient gods, the ancient ones, the immortal gods of the Sith, whereas the Stygian caldera have kind of fallen away from that. They've lost their way to a large extent. But we're told sort of the origins of the sorcerers of Tund. They clung to the old beliefs of the unity. They were deemed heretics and banished to Tund, then called Tond, where they were taken by the arcane Yark Dao and trained by the priests of Chig. And so they went on to become the sorcerers of Tund. And their nihilistic ideology was in many ways similar to the sorcerers of Rand. And that, of course, is on page 735, which is the first page of chapter 70.
Yep.
And then we're told that it goes on into 736 that the Stygian Sith, they start to branch out and conquer other worlds. This is after King Adus conquer other worlds in the Caldera.
Using Rakatan ships.
Using Rakatan ships and reverse engineered technology, right?
Yep.
And
they conquer Ziost.
That's right. Ziost, which became third in cultural, religious, and military importance to the Sith. Would that be behind Droman Kos and behind Korriban, I assume?
Probably.
In that order. Although maybe Korriban became number one at that point, because it is kind of the planet where Adus launched his campaign from.
I have
Emerald
so many
Lake-
questions on the on Droman Koss and the True Sith. Still, I know every time it comes up, I have to ask some kind of question. But like,
Yeah.
what I do like, what's a really nice little subtle retcon is where is it here? I just had it. They'd have spread further, but as the caldera shifts over time in slow rotation, the previously discovered hyperspace routes eventually collapse and become impassable, severing tentative links with the greater galaxy, which sets up Tales of the Jedi, where they've been out of contact forever,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, basically like almost like 20,000 years. But we're told that some of them escape, occasionally discovering isolated Sith tribes from millennia earlier, or at least escaped before that happened, before the hyperspace routes collapsed, including those who built the great armory in the wilds of Onderon. Sorry, you were going to say, which means?
I was just gonna say, does that mean that there could be like true-blooded Sith still out there, like after Crucible, that we just don't know about?
I think it's I think it's certainly possible. It's a big galaxy, right? I think that's certainly possible.
A
and
galaxy much bigger than we previously thought.
Well, exactly, right. And so I think that's potentially the case. And this kind of lays the groundwork. And I've talked to Corey about this, one of the editors, but this lays the groundwork for why we have various sources that have Sith-related sites of importance across the galaxy before the exiles found the Sith of the Stygian caldera, right? So it kind of almost fixes a blind spot in the EU where this comes up.
Perfect. I love it. I love that. Just that little paragraph is like perfect. It cleans up so much garbage from like the pre Tales of the Jedi era, which is like it's not well documented, and what is documented is very contradictory. That clean, perfect. Love it.
Yeah. And then, did you guys see footnote 188? Ken, do you mind reading it for us?
Yeah, sure.
It's on page 735 at the bottom, I believe.
For the Tundars to be regarded as the true Sith requires a broader application of the term than espoused by the collective history of the true Sith by Lord Raptus, which referred to them as Sith purebloods, a definition disseminated by the writings of Jedi scholar Nostril, who studied Raptus's text in order to better understand the enemy assaulting the Republic and the Great Galactic War.
And so this explains why. Actually, it plays with the Chris Avalon's original idea of the true Sith, and then what SWTOR did with them by making them pure-blooded Sith that essentially were hiding out in the Stygian caldera on Droman Koss, right? So it plays with that idea and shows that like true Sith has two meanings within the expanded universe. It refers to what Nostril maybe mistakenly thought were the true Sith, but was really just pure-blooded Sith led by Vitiate, who were hiding in a certain point of the Stygian caldera. And then there's this greater force out there that live in the Nile retreat in the unknown regions. They're locked away there, the actual true Sith. And I'm sure that we'll see in subsequent chapters how they continue to influence events. So yes, that's Essential Atlas and Book of Sith. That is correct.
Interesting. What is the status of Droman Koss last we left it? I'm trying to remember. Is it still? Are they still using it, or did it get like abandoned, or what? Or is it just over?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe Lord Soros had driven out the Sither, and
I think he did. Yeah.
Okay, so sure it's still in use.
I would say it's probably degenerated to near primitive levels, at least at a certain point, and then of course there's Adis, who reconquers Korriban and probably resettles Droman Koss, right?
Yeah.
Or if it not resettles might not be the right word, but I just don't think it's it's no longer the heart of Sith civilization as it was in the days of the Cosmic Wars.
Because I'm trying to remember the details of what happened with Vitiate. Did he rediscover Droman Koss? Because I know he's based there in the Revan novel.
He sorry, I came back late. He went to Droman Koss after the Tales of the Jedi comics, where they lost the Great Hyperspace War. That's like the place he went to immediately after. So.
Is this the Donkey Kong theme?
Yeah, that is. It is. It took me a second. I was like, "Oh, that's funny."
So sorry. What was the status of Dromon Koss? I missed that because I was laughing at that comment. What did Vitiate rediscover it, or was it just always there? Do we know?
I don't think we know.
But I don't remember what it said in the Revan novel. I don't even know if it said one way or the other.
I don't think it did. I think it's just that he's established his Sith Order there. So
after the Great Hyperspace War, the Republic basically moves into the Stygian Caldera and wipes out the pure-blooded Sith, like literally genocides them. But clearly they never discovered Dromon Koss, because that's where Vitiate and
Darth Sidious gave us an answer.
Vitiate rediscovered Dromon Koss and led his followers there after the Nathema ritual. There you go.
That is the ritual where he
that's the discount nihilist.
Sorry, can
it's not discount nihilist.
Wait, can you remind me? Was this before or after the Great Hyperspace War?
That would have been during or right after, right?
During
or right after. Well,
okay. Within 50 years.
He would have gone.
Yeah, because he was a refugee from Korriban, right? Vitiate or something like that.
Because he's a pure blood Sith. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. He was alive for the at the end of the Great. Okay, so there you go. Because he was alive for those events. I remember that.
Yeah.
He was young.
Yeah. All of the Golden Age of the Sith and fall of the Sith Empire, he was there for.
So after that point, we get into Zendor, and I'm gonna throw up a part that I clipped on screen. Some highlighted parts, but we're told that new defenders had arisen. Hold on, sorry, we got another comment here. Vitiate was Lord of Nathema, which was part of the Ragnos Sadao Crash Sith Empire. Yes, Nathema had another name, did it not? I thought it was called Medrias or something like that, maybe.
Madras?
There's another DK. Oh, Dorian Kindersley. Very cool.
Also, just want to quickly apologize to my outburst, Al. I think Vitiate's really cool, and I just don't like the notion. I know, just don't like the notion.
My opinions on Vitiate.
That's okay. That's okay. We all have our different opinions.
All right. When you say Phantom Menace books, do you mean the Terry Brooks novelization, or are we talking about something else?
Okay, but Maxine, have you played the games though, or are you just going off of the Revan novel?
I'm going off it because I think he's overrated.
I mean, you're right, but he's not horrible.
No,
and I'll drop it there so you can have Supernatural Encounters.
I'm sure we'll get to
those. Were those books? Those were those big reference books, right?
What was
those big? You'd get you'd see them at Walmart, and they'd be this big, and they'd be this thin though, and they're reference. They're the visual guide of such and such, I think.
Oh,
thank you. Yes. Okay. So it was called Medrias.
Oh, neat. Sick.
And then
yes, the visual dictionary. Yes,
I love the visual dictionary.
Oh, that's so funny. That's good to know. So we're told, of course, new defenders had arisen, and that would be the Jedi Knights, as we talked about last stream. And with that, there was in 24,500 BBY, there was what will come to be known as the First Great Schism, and this is how it starts, with two lovers, Arden Lin, who was a student of the Palauan tradition, and Zendor, a Kashi Mare Jedi Knight, who taught at the Academy of the Abstruse on Ossus, or Osis, as it's called. He was renowned for having met the Ones during his journeys to better understand the sacred way, and that, I believe, is captured in the testimony of Arden Lin from the Essential Guide to Warfare. Yeah. That's so cool.
That's really awesome.
Everyone's I don't know, more casual people they think, oh yeah, Anakin and all them discovered them. I'm no, they did not.
It's my favorites.
And then we're told that he basically learns. It almost reads like Exar Kun, right? Something had changed in him.
Yeah.
Something had festered in his mind and poisoned his heart as it stemmed from his time spent in the Malagarian library on Malrev 4. An incident that he would not speak of even with Arden Lin. The first signs of that something was amiss came when he started incorporating verboten teachings of Bogan, the philosophy of Genquo, and the way of the dark path, which he taught not as academic abstractions, but for practical use.
Interesting.
So we see how he's basically corrupting his students from the earliest, from the outset, essentially. And there's this very interesting debate that he has with the Grand Master of the Jedi Order.
Okay, so this is really cool. So it's like this Grandmaster Tertanches is like the first recorded like Grandmaster we have now. We used to think it was Adristapina, which I guess he kind of still is because they seem like they're both Grandmaster at the same time, but this Tertanches seems like he's older and like the Grandmaster. So he would be like the first one that we know of like in recorded Jedi history. Which is really cool. And they mentioned that this Grandmaster Tertanches is a wool kabashite.
Yes.
So, like, do you guys know what that species is?
Yes.
That's so weird because, like, I don't know. Like, when you see it,
wasn't Yoda's master or Uru's master was a wool. One of the two was a wool kabashite. I felt like
Uru's master.
It wasn't Yoda's, but like, can you just picture this Jedi, like this species as a Jedi? Because it's just funny.
Adristapina, that's the name that got me for earlier, by the way.
The green blade.
Oh no, maybe it was Sacy Tin.
It's just funny because like I can't picture this like species as a Jedi.
Do you want? There's like a picture on Wikipedia that's like an actual wool kabashite, but it's really really small. But
they're in Return to the Jedi too.
Yeah,
they're in Jabba's palace. Look
it's
at him.
super small. I'm sorry, but that's
Look at
like
him. He's
Bib Fortuna's head right up here, and then above on the ceiling is this. Here, let me see if I can find a better picture.
Thing.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Like, can you just picture that guy as like a Jedi? Like,
okay, I got like a much bigger picture. Are you ready for this? It's not going to be Rick Oley, I promise. It's
okay. That doesn't mean it's not going to be Tom Selleck. Wait a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
Look
at it.
That's
look
nasty.
At it.
So cool.
That looks like one of the things Yoda would eat.
Yeah.
Did
you see?
Now that's a Jedi.
Did you guys see the comments that Harry wrote about Teres Kassi being?
Yes.
Harry was practicing the martial art at the time. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is my goal for Legends Con 2. I'm gonna find the PS2. I'm gonna find a copy of Teres Kassi. We're gonna play it at Legends Con 2.
Oh, I'm down.
You can apply for your booth, like Al's gaming booth or something like that.
No, that'd be
like
cool.
people out in Teres Kassi.
But yeah, Jedi Grandmaster.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I was reading that on the Wook yesterday. I was like, ooh.
I like how he gets into a debate, Zendor, with the Grandmaster, and there's this one point where the Grandmaster harumphs, and he's like, "Because you live in an uneventful time, you think it must ever have been so prosaic, and that the old wars were but small skirmishes as told by primitive species. Because science has produced glow rods and illumistrips to chase away the dark, you forget that the darkness and the shadows that walk within it still exists. You are young. Do not let this intellectual fashions of our modern clime make you doubt the ancient, unchangeable nature of right and wrong. Though forgotten or declared obsolete they may be." So he's like haranguing him to like, don't forget the old ways, right?
The Matt Wilkins.
Oh God.
It would be beautiful. It would be so cute. I wanted to fight a Scandit. Maybe
A Scandit. A family picture.
If that thing in Waru had a baby, just imagine what would that baby look like? I'm trying to think.
Ooh.
So it would be a glob of meat, right? Because that's like Waru's thing.
With a very long
covered, very long tongue. But I feel like it would be more this shape than a cube.
Oh, I know what it would look like. I know.
Oh God.
Oh God. Tom Selleck.
Marcel's ready. He's come with receipts.
I'm picking it up. I'm getting it.
Wait.
It's
all right.
Maybe I know.
It has to like it has to cook a little bit. He has to cook up something.
Marcel's cooking.
I got
He's
it.
finally cooking.
So this is what this Waru versus this wool Kabashite. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
It belongs in a toilet.
Oh my God.
This is a Star Wars character.
That's Claude.
Bro, just be sitting there just like.
What's his name? Kevin?
Just
His
vibing.
name's Claude.
Vibing.
To be
He's
fair,
vibing.
the only good
No!
sequel memes are live him reaction.
No, Matt.
Wow.
No.
Wow, Matt out here being a demon.
No. No way.
Ralph,
No way.
Fritz the cat. I almost said Ralph
Yeah.
the cat. Fritz
Ralph
the cat.
Bakshi.
Don't look that up. Don't look that up.
Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings. I watched as a child when I first started reading the books.
I like
and
it.
It was surreal, very surreal.
No,
but I enjoyed it.
I
I
get
enjoy
it,
it a
guys.
lot.
It's not Matt insulting Brendan's brother's appearance. It's the fact that Brendan's brother doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know what's funny about this is that at this point, like, we could literally bring Brennan's brother and put him in front of Matt, and Matt's like, "How much should they pay you? Come and pretend." Like, you'll never be convinced that Brennan has a brother.
They just they pulled some guy off the street.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
right. Live slug reaction.
I love live slug
Slug
reaction.
reaction.
That's one of my favents. That's
Well,
the only good sequel meme.
because the joke I think at the time was that the kiss got less screen time than the live slug reaction.
Yes.
Live slug reaction.
That's we did that a long time ago in the group chat. Remember, it was like live Zinj reaction, Warlord Zinj.
Yeah. And then Bam, you can play as that character in Lego Star Wars as
Cloud.
well. Cloud, yeah, and like
Claude,
he
yeah.
when you like attack with him, he like swings around his head like it's like it. Have you ever seen a giraffe get into a fight? Like they just swing their necks around. Like that's exactly what Claude does.
I want his attack. I wish his attack was he just stared at you and eventually you just exploded.
He has a ground pound too.
I didn't know that giraffes could get into fight. You know, I guess so.
Have you not seen videos of giraffes fighting?
They're brutal.
This is not a tangent this is not a path that I can go down right
What,
now.
Marcel? You don't watch
they
animal
whack
fights
each
on the
other with
internet?
their heads.
No, I don't.
They just like it's crazy.
They just like curl their necks around each other and they just like rip. And then...
Yeah, and they just whack each other like if you got like a I don't know, like a noodle or something and just
Look, if
Yeah,
my wars are not happening in the stars, then I just don't care about them.
giraffe wars.
I think
Giraffe wars.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, enough about giraffes.
So have you ever wait, one more thing about giraffes. Have you
No.
seen the meme where it's like where does the giraffe wear the bow tie? Is it like right up against
It's right up,
top of the
yeah, or
neck?
down.
Or is it down or
Where does
No.
where does the wool kabashite wear his tie?
we'll never know.
on his tongue.
On the tongue, like
So Zendor resents the Grandmaster giving him a haranguing and telling him that he needs to really watch what he's doing, and decides to just double down on his dark arts. Arden Lynn is in love with him, so she follows him blindly. They gather a following, and those attracted to the darker mysteries. Again, we're seeing it's kind of like Exar Kun, right? It's like
Yeah,
it is.
it rhymes,
Boy.
but
Except I think Exar Kun would have probably just killed the little disgusting
Just
thing.
killed him.
yeah,
Well,
fair enough. Yeah,
Here's all the difference.
but-
For as awesome as
still,
Exar Kun is,
yeah.
Zendor just kind of decided, or Zendar, however freak you want to say that, he decided, I'm going to do this. Okay. As evil as Exar Kun is, he was kind of forced into the position he was in. It's kind of like turn dark or die.
That's right.
So he was kind of like, it was not really like it was a choice, but it was like a big ultimatum. So
He went, guess I'll die.
Guess I'll die. Yeah. And so he takes all these students who want to learn about the darker mysteries, quote unquote, and he takes them from Ossus to a planet called how do you pronounce this? Is it Leto?
I say
I
let's
think so.
Yes,
Leto?
I think it's
I
named.
used to
Jared
say
Leto.
Leto, but yeah.
So I think that might be it. Could so this is on the off chance it is. It could be named after a German general, Paul von Vorbeck.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you say
Yeah.
again? Paul von.
Paul von Lettow Vorbeck.
Okay.
I like that he did the little accent when he said it.
Well, that's how his name's
Yeah,
pronounced.
yeah.
I got in trouble
Anything
for
to do
calling
with
him.
like any military generals, I like freak out.
We'll just say Leto
Sorry,
for
Al.
now.
I say
yeah, I
let's
think-
go. That's how I've always said
Leto
it.
von Velbeck. I can search his name up.
Hello, good to see you, my friend. And so he
Oh.
wants to give it.
Hi, Brennan.
Why is Matt
Hey, Brennan, what's up, my man?
about my brother? Yeah, well,
We're talking about imaginary things.
The High Council decides to send a team to investigate this new school that he's opened up, right? He tries to give it an air of respectability by teaching the older Force traditions, but interlaced within them are these darker arts, darker mysteries. Interestingly, we're told that the team that was sent by the High Council to investigate comes back and they say, like, we got to shut this down, right? It says they put out a scathing renunciation of the curriculum, demonstrating how its teachings led to empirically harmful results, citing psychological problems, spiritual corruption, suicides, murders, and violence amongst students that was unheard of in the Jedi sanctioned academies. Pretty grim stuff.
Okay, we're
It's
coming
always
up
nice
on
to see him.
something
Yeah,
I'm so excited about.
that's fair. That's fair. Join if you can. Yet to be proved. That's right.
Join us. The gates are opening.
Wow, that's crazy. And so he calls it the Academy of the Enlightened. And they go on a full-scale propaganda campaign presenting the Jedi as intolerant, self-righteous, judgmental dictators.
Sounds like a Dark Souls area. Not gonna lie, Marcel. Academy of the Enlightened.
Well, there was another like Bloodborne. Well, it wasn't probably an
Well,
actual Bloodborne reference, but
Bergenworth.
yeah, well, yeah, something like that.
Bloodborne
But
references Lovecraft, so it all ties in.
It sounds
together.
like it sounds like a society the Riddler would put together, where it's just him. It's just him.
It's only him.
I guess I'm the only smart one here. Yeah.
Solve this riddle.
I just love this comment right here. He's gonna rent him on Craigslist for the day.
He's got a whole bunch of clones lined up.
Did you read the part about, so on page 738, we find out that he starts calling his legions of Letau that had been so well indoctrinated at that point that they burned with zeal to fight for him. And he points himself as the Dark Underlord.
Okay, I'm so excited about this.
Go for it. Go for it.
No, he calls himself the Dark Underlord, and like there's a Sith in the new Sith Wars that's later on. That's like, you know, Bane era, and called the Dark Underlord. And for a long time we didn't know who he was, and then I have it in the book here because I looked it up the other day. It was said that he was like he was possibly the spirit of Zendor reincarnated, or like just like some like crazy, like, you know, like older Sith, but like or different Sith. But it is like confirmed here that it is Zendor who was the Dark Underlord.
Awesome.
Reincarnated later on in the new Sith Wars.
That's cool. That's
He's
very
stood
cool.
back from chaos, and okay, and then also the Dark Underlord in the new Sith Wars has the Black Knights, which that's what Zendor calls his like his main guard, like his most
elite,
trusted.
his elite Black Knights to combat the Jedi on Ossus.
Yeah, so it's so cool, and I remember reading this, and I literally like super loud, and like I don't know, it like I loved it because I'm
that's super
like
cool.
the Dark Underlord, like, and I made an Instagram post about that character like last year or something, and I was just like, it's so cool, and like now we know that it actually was the reincarnation of Zendor. And the thing is, like, they say that the Dark Underlord in the new Sith Wars would refuse lightsabers and use like swords, which matches for, you know, his time that he was from, because they used swords and not lightsabers. And I think it's so cool, and I loved it.
I would ask, if that's true, how does that work? Do we have any other examples in the reincarnation?
He probably just possessed somebody.
Yeah, he says he was like summoned back from chaos from like a Sith acolyte. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that it's like reincarnation in the traditional sense of the term, but it's like if a spirit is summoned from chaos, which I don't even know how that would work, but
I don't know, but that is some spiritual explanations more
well, didn't it like
easy for me to accept
like
than
Palpatine like was coming back from the dead? Didn't like this like his followers like kind of coax him back, like they, you know, like
somehow
let him back
Zendor returned.
Exactly. Somehow Zendor returned, but centuries later. And I just think it's the coolest thing because like I don't know, it's just a fascinating character, like the Dark Underlord, and then knowing like who he is now. It's like, it was one of my favorite connections.
The other cool thing about him is that he gets confirmed as a Darth. right? He becomes Darth Zendor, I guess, right? Which is very cool.
And then, no, wait, never mind. We're not there yet.
Okay. So at this point, it devolves into full-scale galactic combat between the Republic, the Galactic Republic, and Zendor's forces and the Legions of Leto. But his attempt to turn the Republic against the Jedi fail, right? Like he tries to get the Republic on his side, but they're loyal to the Jedi. Oh my God. Here, somehow Zendor returns. He flies now. That's right. He flies now.
He flies now.
And then we get some interesting lore about the Soul Saber.
Oh,
Some say it was
so cool.
his greatest achievement, a ghastly weapon forged in the stronghold on Korbos. Now, Korbos is a planet that recurs in the expanding universe. That's where the Jedi exiles, that was like the last battle before they were exiled, right? The Battle of Korbos. That's where Jedi Academy Leviathan, they Kip Duron goes to that planet to fight the Leviathan on Korbos.
All the first students do.
Yeah.
Oh, do they? Okay, yeah. It was like
the Streen and all of them.
Piranha T, Streen, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
They fight a big giant Leviathan Sith monster.
That's right.
It's just a fun cover.
I remember. And then we're told that Vormij, his most loyal follower. Yeah, sorry, did I miss something?
Can we read the what it sounds like? So it's like a ghastly.
Go for it. Yeah, read it.
A ghastly weapon forged in his stronghold on Korbos from an idea he'd gleaned when hearing of the Mortis dagger. Akin to the Force Saber that required the user to draw on negative emotions, he fashioned a violet-black bladed, dragon-carved, bronze-hilted laser sword that could drive a Darksider into a state of abandon, corrupt weaker Lightsiders by mere proximity to it, and tempt even the strongest Jedi with but a graze. That's so cool.
It is very cool. I'm throwing up this picture of Zendor here. So this is interesting. It looks like they're wielding vibroblades, essentially.
It does, but they're like enhanced with
force imbued swords.
With the force imbued blades. And
this is
Zendor and Arden Lin. I love this picture, by the way.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I like that. I love those designs. When did Arden Lin get that robot hand?
That's a good question.
That was it. I'm pretty sure she gets it like before she gets sealed into stasis.
I was gonna say, because when I looked at the image of her from Terrace Casa, I was like, damn, that does not look like it's a modern.
I'm pretty sure she loses it to Adrista Pina. I'm pretty sure he.
You know what's interesting about this is that. So, correct me if I'm wrong, there were Force Sabers in Dawn of the Jedi, but it seems like the technology's devolved back to Force-imbued blades at this point.
Yes.
And I guess Supernatural Encounters never really explains why it devolves back, but...
Well, Dawn of the Jedi, they're using swords, right?
Are they using swords? Okay.
The only ones who are using the lightsabers are the Rakata and that Zash or whatever his name is, the guy that the slave of them.
But if you look
have
at
to use the dark
powered
side,
by dark side,
you have to use the dark side or it doesn't work.
Oh, I was going to say, if you look at pictures of the Force Wars of Tython, you get sabers, but actually you don't. Look, here's a picture right here. More like the Based Wars of Tython. So none of it's kind of small, but none of those are actual lightsabers. I don't think
that's from Jedi Path.
Is that okay? So that's a visual representation of the Force Wars of Tython and
the Riz Wars of Tython.
I just love that because they are force imbued swords. Like look at these pictures. They're very like almost like feudal Japan samurai type swords, and I guess that makes sense when you think about these.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
The armor though. Oh, love it.
The armor looks dope.
See, and these are whole novels we could have in this era.
I know it's just
got more a year.
So many missed opportunities.
To be fair, that's all of Dawn of the Jedi. That's like all of Dawn of the Jedi and like pre Tales of the Jedi is like that big era.
That's what I'm saying. There's a huge thing you could do a whole bunch of stories there. Because Joe only scratches the surface here, giving us a little bit more, which thank God he does. But imagine whole novels about this in comics.
We don't even see like Marco Ragnos in the flesh.
Never.
Yeah, I know he like
Yeah,
dies.
we
in
don't
I
it.
see him
think
at all.
so. We only see him as a ghost after the fact.
Oh, thank you.
And
I
in
didn't
his-
want to.
in his-
I should have plugged it myself, actually, but yeah.
That is a great little plug-in.
Ooh.
It's yeah. I also narrated quite a few things actually that we're going to talk about today. The Tale of the Iowa Pod as well, which it was like my second narration ever. I'm very proud of it because it's the first time I ever used sound effects.
I really like. I listened to that. That was the first thing I listened to on my drive home over New Year's.
Did you like how I did like the School of Fish and I had like multiple voices and stuff? Yeah. That was
Isn't
fun.
Marcel just amazing?
I-
Isn't his whole channel
Oh,
just glorious?
It's only anyways.
amazing.
So we're told that his most loyal follower Vormij gets sent on basically a suicide mission prompted by jealousy. I guess because he was attempting to seduce Arden Lin.
Yeah.
No,
No, not at all. It's hey, it comes better from you than from me. Better him than me. And so Vormij gets sent on a suicide mission to kill some Jedi's and Masters, Jedi Knights and Masters, but he steals
The Soul Saber.
the Soul Saber. Yeah, I hear some background music. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, what's that?
yeah, no, isn't that the Discord call?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I will be back. Oh no, Nara's gone. Never mind.
All right.
What?
So yeah, he steals the Soul Saber, and he uses it to kill a bunch of Jedi. Then he flees to the southern continent on the jungle planet of Pomorjal, and the Ithorians that dwelt nearby could feel the dark stain of the Soul Saber and revealed his hideout. And there, in a conflict that created the Badlands, which sounds like very interesting lore, he was slain. The wicked blade was taken by the Jedi and hidden on an unnamed planet where it would not be rediscovered until the Galactic Civil War. So, where does the Soul Saber come up again? Soul Saber, Star Wars.
It's
Is
pretty
this-
cool how the Ithorians like stopped him. Usually they're like more of the peaceful dudes where they're like, oh, we're not gonna get involved, you know? They stopped this
Oh,
guy.
if you get an Ithorian angry,
Yeah.
that could be quite
So-
terrifying.
Apparently, it's from Soul Saber, first appearance, which is a Child of Light saga written by Lee Pickler and released for Wizards of the Coast. So it's a
So-
bunch of, I guess, a bunch of adventures that one can play in the Wizards of the Coast.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
That's
so
a cool connection.
and then we find out about to round out chapter 70. We learn about the end of Zendor, and I'm just going to throw up something on screen to kind of highlight. So Grandmaster Adrista Pina was called the Green Blade by his allies, Cross Brental IV, Chandrila, Coruscant, and Metellos. Pina led the Jedi against the legions of Letau before finally ending Zendor's life in combat on Columbus.
Rip.
He was less successful with Arden Lin on Urkala. Lin wore, this is cool, the Orixa talisman, which we talked about a few streams ago, now known as the Kashmir talisman, that had been gifted to her by Zendor after he'd augmented it with some of his most powerful enchantments. And we learned, I think, in that chapter when we talked about the Orixa talisman, that it eventually did find its way into the hands of Zendor through his father, maybe?
Yeah.
The talisman shattered Pina's blade, mortally wounding him. Before he died, Pina retaliated with the use of a precarious technique called Morikro, which stopped Lin's heart. Lin was rescued by the remnants of her forces and placed in stasis, where she remained for over 24,000 years, only to be unthawed so that she could star in crappy PS1 game.
Yeah.
The Jedi proved victorious in the First Great Schism. Zendor's fallen Jedi would later colloquially be termed Dark Jedi, while minions of Zendor would be used as an expletive. This is all from, so the first instance of Zendor, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Brian Daly's stuff?
I think it's
by
it's
the minions of
either him or
Zendor.
it's Han Solo.
Okay.
Or not Han Solo, AC Crispin's.
Okay.
Because I vaguely remembered in that.
Yeah, the Second Great Schism, that being the one with the exiles, would not prove as easy to curtail, but that was yet many years in the future. So the Jedi eventually stop Zendor, but not before he creates the term Dark Jedi, which is somewhat interesting because if he calls himself a Sith or he's Darth Zendor,
Where does the Darth come from?
maybe did I read that wrong? Is that
I think he did, because I don't remember him being a Darth.
I thought I missed.
I might just be making
He's
that
just
up.
the Dark Underlord.
I will find.
He's definitely not a Jedi, but I don't think he's a Sith either.
What are you, some kind of Jedi waving your hands around like that?
My chicks don't work on me. Only money.
Only money. I think maybe I'll just check one more place. If it's not in the end notes, then it's nowhere, and I'm just making it up.
Are you tripping?
Watch out, little Annie. Greed.
Slavery.
Yes. Okay. Here it is. I wasn't making it up. So it says
Okay, so you are
in
tripping.
the end notes. It says confirming that the Dark Underlord from the new Sith Wards is indeed the spirit of Zendor, summoned from chaos, and then et cetera, et cetera. As well as the Legions of Leto being an alternative name for the Black Knights of the Sith in Lucas's early Star Wars drafts. The link to the Black Legions of Zozan from the Second Great Schism in turn was not only a linguistic tie, but based on the fact that the Black Knights rose again after the new Sith Wars in the Fluwaka Revolt. The Trap of Fluwaka was a battle fought in the 100-Year Darkness, suggesting a historical connection. Overall, this better connects Zendor and the Legions to later Sith history and makes them less of an outlier. Due to the fact that Zendor later became a Sith Lord, and due to the connections between his legacy and the Second Great Schism, it indeed could be said, as was commonly thought by fans at one point, that Zendor was the first Jedi turned Sith Lord, and that the First Great Schism indeed brought about the Sith Order after all. So, okay, so no Darth, but the idea that he's a Sith Lord. That's why I got the Darth thing confused.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huh.
So I think
That
what's
makes
meant
me-
by that is that Zendor there's a through line from Zendor to the Exiles to
Yeah.
the Sith Lord.
It's less of just like random. It's less of, oh, the first schism was just some guy over there, and then the next one, that was the Sith. It's more
Yeah.
this guy started a trend, and then the Exiles continued it, which led to the Sith Order. Which is a lot more interesting.
And then we get to chapter 71. Unless people have any further comments on Zendor, I don't want to move on too quickly.
I just wanted to say it's interesting. Arden Lin is such a weird character, and I really want to learn more about her, but I don't want to play.
And it would be cool if there was
Terrace
just
Kase ever.
more stories with there, you know, like
Yeah.
outside of this game.
Well, she
was
was
looking
alive
at-
during the between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's like cool. It's just like how like Celeste Morn kind of did the same thing, where she's like in stasis and then comes back during different eras. So like something with Arden Lin along those lines, where she's like, it's, I don't know, a comic book, whatever, you know.
yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be a lot of fun. I wish I could. I know it says on the book they wanted to connect her back to the beginning of the Jedi, but I'd love to pick whoever made that decision. I'd love to pick their brain a little bit because I'm like, why? It's very interesting.
Yes.
I wish I could get more at it.
I've talked about this with Darth Sidious on numerous occasions. How it was later retconned that the First Great Schism was. Well, I mean that the Second Great Schism was actually the Second Great Schism as opposed to what we thought was the First Great Schism. So Ajunta Paul and the Exiles finding the Sith we thought was the First Great Schism, but then this Zendor thing was later retconned to be that.
Chad.
So yeah, well, yeah. Chapter 71 is called Dwellers of the Deep.
Yeah.
And we start off with the Tale of Protoss, and it's essentially a retelling of Tale of the Iowa Pod. And we learned that we talked about these megalodons back when we talked about the sea creatures fighting one another. Maybe I can pull up that picture actually.
The Charybdians.
The Charybdians, that's right. And Protoss is one of them. And he makes his way to Camino because he thinks he can do some good there. And stalks those waters.
Here's a Camino saber dart.
Isn't it so bizarre? There's just a 50s dine. I know that everybody brings that up, but like, what? He just goes into the 50s for about 3 minutes and leaves. That's
Pocket
I love
book.
that.
I love
Pocket
this.
book.
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan.
What do you know?
All right, so
Past the Rishi Maze. Oh my god.
I love that guy.
Well, 5 parsecs outside the Rishi Maze.
which one of these beauties is Protoss, do you think?
I remember
Protoss?
we talked. I asked this question on this stream. I
it's the
forgot which
back
one it
I
was.
feel like it's the guy grinning over here.
That's what I was thinking.
Little Abeloth looking guy.
He looks a
Yeah.
little mean to be Protest, but I mean, Protest is mean. So
The Emperor's Pawn from Gamer 5. Yeah, I need a complete
Is that
set of gamer magazines.
Funny little
is that Abel G. Pena?
What? Where?
Yeah, he
Oh, no,
was.
I was
at Dex's Diner. Yeah, is that what from Abel G. Pena? The article? It might be.
Yeah.
It sounds like something Abel Pena would do.
I just
And
like, thanks to Jedi Quest, that it was not always Dexter's Diner.
Obi-Wan.
It was originally two other people's.
Take a seat. I'll be right with you.
That's right. They did separate the schism into two.
You want a cup of Jawa juice?
Oh my god.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
So Protoss fights Melkor. Every time I see Melkor, I think of Lord of the Rings.
So do I. I was like, what?
But so he gets to Kamino through a hypergate and then destroys it afterwards. Melkor, the mysterious dark titan of Bolgen, had claimed Kamino as his own, and he fights Melkor. But the issue here is that he asks the Iowa to join him in his fight on Melkor. Or it's not the Iowa, sorry. Who was it? It was the Kaminoans, right?
I think so.
I think it's the Iowa, yeah.
Hold on.
Read it.
I think it is because he doesn't regard the Kaminoans because they're like people or whatever. They're like not sea dwellers.
I just remember he's upset because they did not help him in his fight against Melkor.
Yeah, he thinks
Oh, okay. Wait. The Iowa did not help him, so that's why he's upset at the Iowa. But then he says later, so after he defeats Melkor, which he does, he becomes more cantankerous and brooding over time. And then the Iowa are trying to escort the Kaminoans across his realm, and he says, "I won't let them pass." And the Iowa are like, "Well, if we try and take them around your domain, then we're subjecting all of them to risk, and many of them will die. So just let us pass." He's like, "No, they're disciples of Melkor." He calls the Kaminoans.
Also, the fight between Protoss and Melkor is like 6 days of them just fighting.
That's right.
Until he defeats him.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I love this chapter as well.
Yeah, this is a really good one.
That's right. You can also see what the page looks like on my YouTube channel, which you are now on.
Go find it. Go
like, subscribe, bring that
Subscribe
bell
to the
button.
Revengist.
Yeah. Tell your friends, tell your family. Yeah, he's like a Leviathan.
How's your kids? How's your wives?
I can't see any of these guys in the art pieces. Protoss. Picture him as being much bigger, just so massive. Yeah, I mean, he's
a big boy.
It's probably the case, yeah.
He's big.
And so,
big boy.
He basically says, like, if you Iowa try and pass me, I'm going to kill you. And so they realize that Protoss has fallen into madness. And although they're the Iowa are they're native to Kamino. They were part of the Resolute.
Yes.
So. They had never broken the faith with the Celestials, but now they fight against Protoss to save the Kaminoans. And he's like, you would not put aside your lofty morals to help me defeat Melkor or the Kikla, but you will to fight me. And they're like, not to fight you, Protoss, but to save lives. And this is by an Iowa named Thist.
These Iowas are great.
Yeah, they're like pretty based. Like they're
yes, they are.
Yeah, they're just like they're trying
to
do the right
him.
thing.
Look at Marcel. He's
What?
growing in the language of the young.
Okay.
They're pretty based.
This is what makes Marcel so based. Zace,
Okay.
even if you would say.
Zace.
Every time he does a video and he talks smooth as butter, it's like he's risen up the entire world.
I think you're trying to lose up Marcel right now.
Yeah.
First Al and now
His voice
Marcel.
effect is really, yeah, I like it.
We gotta make my rounds.
So
the Iowas, yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say the Iowas beat Protoss, but yeah, go ahead.
They do. Of course, famously, the Iowas have been were in George Lucas's mind. He desperately wanted to use them for 3 movies, and he just never did. That's where we get Thrantas and all those things. But the thing that looking back on it, I don't know if this is the correct interpretation, but it sounds like Kamino is already a water planet, which I'm not sure lines up Because from what I understand about Camino, it was the Kaminoans. They basically ruined the planet, polluting it, and they melted their ice caps, and that's what turned it into a water planet. I could just be misreading here. That I think.
I'm not sure about that because Tail of the Iwapod is like one of the earliest sources in the EU, and it's already a water planet at that point. But I don't know enough of the Kaminoan lore.
I'm willing to say that I might be misreading, and I also might be wrong. I think that's.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere
extraordinarily
before.
likely.
I feel like I might have heard that somewhere before. I don't know. It could be the case that
Well,
somebody said
perhaps
that
it's
in
just
like
a
modern
model.
day, and they're just speculating. They don't actually know.
Well, the-
Camino's never really interested me, to be honest.
Perhaps
No,
it's just like gone over different ice ages throughout the
Yeah.
millennia, you know, and it's frozen over a few times, you know.
So they beat Protoss, and he's dying, but he calls them accursed offspring of the Oswaft, which is cool because the Oswaft, of course, are those like space manta rays that appear in the Lando Calrissian in the Star Cave of Thon Boca. He says
That's what I would say.
Thon Baca.
Yeah.
Lando Calrissian, the Star Cave, and the Man Cave of Chewbacca.
Yeah.
So he curses them before he dies. He says, "You and your kind will cease all speech from now to your end." In this burst of sorrow and wrath, Protoss had used what remained of his powers to curse the Iwa's gift of speech, for their proud words had made him feel ashamed and enraged.
Wow, what a sore loser.
Ken, can you read us the bottom two paragraphs? This is over the long generations, and the one right after that.
1 second.
And while you're getting there, I'm just going to say that the death of Protoss was a grievous moment for the Iwa because they didn't want to kill Camino's protector, but they had no choice because he was being belligerent.
Imagine if that big thing was on like Camino during like the Clone Wars or something. Like,
yeah,
the
It's
droids
like-
are
Man, you could eat all
this
clone
big
commandos,
guy
we
come-
wouldn't have to
Or am I
read
starting
those
myself?
books.
over the long generations.
Okay, I'll just read it here since you have it up.
Yeah.
Over the long generations, different versions of these events continued to be told by Kaminoans to their younglings. In one longer version, the Iowa visited by the Celestial fortified them and said that the sacrifice had not gone unnoticed, that they would one day speak again. Although the Kaminoan Jedi Master Kinaha declared these stories to be based in truth, nearly all now believed to be Fry and Elva tales, metaphors for their bravery of what they saw as nothing more than their steadfast mouths.
I meant to ask what Fry and Elver tales meant because I looked it up and I couldn't figure out the reference, but I was just very curious about that. Fry and
All I
Elver
can think of was
tales.
French fries. I think it's just like a mix up of fairy and elvish tales or whatever.
Okay.
If I had to guess.
Kaminoan Jedi Master.
That's,
Right?
yeah, Kinaha.
That's awesome. I love it.
Was she in? What was she in? She was in something. Is that a character? Is that a real character? Or am I
Yeah.
thinking of
Pretty
something
sure
else?
it is.
I would imagine, yes. So, I mean, there you have it. Protoss has been killed, and again, another semi-mythical creature from the Cosmic Wars era is now gone from the universe, right? Thereby continuing to lay this foundation of, I wouldn't say atheism, but like this foundation of disbelief that
Yeah.
people will have for Hex's story, both in the real world and in the context of supernatural encounters, because of the fact that these things they just can simply not conceive of them, right? Both in the real world and in supernatural encounters, right?
Yeah.
They think it's in the real world and in supernatural encounters. Anathema to Star Wars to have these things in it when in fact it wasn't. You just forgot, both in the real world and in Star Wars, that these things were around since the beginning, both in the real world in the 1970s and 80s and in Star Wars. Okay,
I love you.
Okay. So sometimes repetition can be a very powerful
Yes, it can. It's a very good rhetorical power there.
I love repeating.
Joe
Nothing
did
I
a
love
great
better
thing.
than repeating.
Joe did amazing by
I
accident.
don't even think I think I asked like he didn't even intend for that to be the
No,
case.
I know. I'm saying
Brennan,
it's an accident.
it was you, me, and Brennan were talking to him about it.
Yeah.
But it just worked out so wonderfully.
It worked out so well to be a metatextual thing about in his own story and outside of it.
Exactly.
Task failed successfully.
Task failed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we get to the part of this stream that was Al and my favorite part. I'm just going to
before we dive into the worst planet in the history of planets, I do want to shout out Darth Sidious. This is a good point, but I want to jump off this and say, without the Kaminoans causing their own downfall, that would actually cause a little bit of a problem in that then they wouldn't develop the ideology that makes them good cloners, because they basically become like eugenicists after they destroy their planet. And
there is that element of it, yeah.
So I think that is what I have. It's not necessarily a problem because I might just be misreading. That's fair. It doesn't say, oh, the whole planet was water or anything like that. And it could be the Iowa are trying to save them from themselves. So there are ways that I might just be misreading. But the Kaminoans destroying the planet, I do think, is important to them as like for the sake of their own story.
I think you're right. This was said somewhere. I don't know where, but I think there's ways around it. You know, we did have an ice age. You know, so there's ways for this to be done twice. Movie called Waterworld. Whole world's water. Wasn't like that before.
Whole world's water.
So you know, there's
except
ways
for
to
Mount Everest. Sorry, spoilers.
There's
like a little island.
Yeah.
You know,
but so there's
whatever
ways
makes
to make
Kevin
it
Costner
like
happy.
There's 2 great schisms. Maybe there's 2 great floods.
You know, interesting that you say 19,000 BBY because the tail of the Iowa pod I've seen it dated back to like 100,000 BBY or 200,000 BBY. Camino warming.
Yeah.
That's I actually like that, Dr. Crater. That's actually, I think that's fair. But I get that would just be like down to like what Hex said at the beginning. Different dates are being measured improperly or whatever.
Yeah, certainly. And that's why I just need the actual timeline of when all these things occur. I just need it. I need it.
Anyway, continue.
It's gonna be like my, my deathbed wish is just let me see when all this happened. So the progenitor's tale starts on page 742. Unless anyone has any final thoughts about.
No, sorry. Never mind. I'm good.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I'm good.
We're told the progenitor is another Charybdian to fall in sorry, it says to fall in it says, alas, that protest was not the only Charybdian to fall in relatively peaceful times. During the Indecta era, there came a day when death came to Manon. So now we're on the Selkath planet of Manon, which is featured. I think it was first featured maybe in KOTOR.
It was.
I think so.
I have a picture of the progenitor here.
Yes,
there's a picture of it.
Yes, because nope, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah,
because it is not really. It's not really like a boss, but it's a element in Knights of the Old Republic in the worst level ever. Where am I? There is it. There it is. It's bad. I'm sorry. It's bad. It's torture. It has a great soundtrack and it looks really, really pretty. There it is.
So that's a Charybdian.
She's just saying.
So that's the progenitor Ancetra.
Indeed.
Or Anse for short. I say Anse because it has that accent. So, so we're told basically that the progenitor traveled to Manon to work alongside. Whoa, sorry, my screen's going crazy. Work alongside emancipated Selkath who had returned to their world in great numbers to begin construction on the capital of Ahto City, which would welcome offworlders and fellow free peoples whom the Star Wars Selkath had befriended. A powerful healing agent known as Kolto, which is a backed predecessor that is featured very heavily in the KOTOR series, was harvested not far from Ahto City at a station set up by Kolto Care Therapeutics within the Hrakert Rift. So it's called Hrakert Station. Deep under the waters of Manon, from which it was to be distributed to alien nations across the stars. and then we're told that something went wrong. This is like sort of like what Stephen King does. He tells you what happens, and then like it just tells you what happens, and then in greater detail explains how that happens. So it's like not foreshadowing. It's like literally this happens. It's like Stephen King will do this narratively. He'll be like, and that was the last good day that he ever had. And then you're like, well, shit, there's like still like 400 pages left of this book. What's going on? What's going to happen? And so
That's like the first chapter of Salem's Lot is just like everyone's dead. The whole
Yeah.
town is abandoned.
Yeah, it's funny. And then it says, whatever the case, what is known is that over 2,000 died that fateful day when the denizens of the dark waters erupted in a tumult to swallow all in its path, all save 3. We're gonna find out who those 3 were, but there's something happened, and there's this. It says others claim it was the occult influence of the Rakatan star map installation, yet hidden in the Oceanic Valley. And I note at this point in the text, we don't really know why those star maps were set up or who set them up or why there's only one existing star forge left in the galaxy. So I do hope that's addressed later on, because it seems like a pretty big thread to just keep hanging. I know Alex maybe knows the answer to that, but don't tell us.
I mean, yeah.
Because there's 3 star forges and only one is left, or maybe the other 2 are still out there. I don't know. But like, why set up star maps? It's like that whole like thing with The Force Awakens. Like, why is there a map leading to Luke?
Yeah, that's true.
Perhaps,
I don't want to be found. Here's exactly how to find me.
So I want to say, I think that might be addressed in Knights of the Old Republic. I think they might want. I think when you first learn about the star maps, they say basically it was like a flex on their slave races, something to that effect. I want to say, like on Dantooine, they tell you that they're better than
I'd
you.
have to replay the
they're
game.
Like, they're showing. Oh, that's it's. They're showing you the majesty of the infinite empire. Like basically seeing it in the star map, you'd like, oh wow, they're so much better than us. Was basically the idea, I think. It's been a little while since I played that game, but I think that was the explanation as to why they exist.
No, that's fair. Okay, so we're introduced to a character. She's a girl, Michelle Voss, or Voss, Michelle Voss. Her parents work for Colto Care Therapeutics, so she's at Hackert Station. She has a friend, an older gentleman, Sergeant Davin Haladom. That's one of her only 2 friends at this facility. The other friend is the progenitor, Ancetra, who she calls Anse, and has many discussions with her. And Anse tells her at one point, it's often hard to find good friends, but I'm glad that you're my friend. And Michelle's like, me too. Maybe Anse was right. Besides, how many could claim to have a giant talking whale as a friend? That is true.
Free Willy
is your mom. Yeah. And then Michelle.
Michelle Voss is my mom for real.
Yeah, your fake mom, like your fake brother.
Brennan doesn't have
me like a fake life.
That's deep Brennan lore that he has a fake brother. Michelle one day has a nightmare, and this is just amazing. I gotta read this part. Over the next few weeks, Michelle's life proceeded as normal. She's basically trying to tell everybody, like, hey, I have a talking whale friend, but no one believes her. Then one night she had a nightmare, and it recurred every night for the next 3. Anse would appear to her at the Transparestial viewport where they often met. Her giant eyes, normally so filled with mirth, were now hooded with fear. She urged Michelle to flee, repeating the warnings again and again, but she never did. Then something happened to Anse's eyes. They shifted, became confused, and then closed. When they reopened, they were black. The Charybdian opened her mouth wide and screamed. It was a wave of fury and grief that Michelle had never before heard, and so powerful that it cracked the transparestial pane that separated the ocean from the station. In the explosion of shards, the frozen waters rushed in, and those black eyes followed. At that point, Michelle would awaken. That's the stuff of nightmares. That's nightmare fuel. I saw that picture so clearly in my mind, that entire dream. It was amazing. I don't know. I just love that part. That's when I read that nightmare part, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. And also because, again, Lovecraftian, like if you read like something like the Call of Cthulhu, for instance, like people are plagued by nightmares, and it's not, we find out that it's not just Michelle.
Yeah.
So she tells Sergeant Davin, her friend, about the nightmares, and as they keep recurring, he decides to go talk to her family about it. Yeah, exactly. He decides to go talk to her parents about it, and they're kind of like, "Who are you? Why are you friends with our daughter? You adult man, like, and stop
Fair
bothering us with this, right?"
To be fair, it is a little strange. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's weird.
We'll tend to our own. So, Davin goes to an old flame of his, who's I guess they're friends now. Evelyn Vandor, a marine biologist. They used to date, but it didn't work out. But they obviously still have some kind of relationship. Yeah, no. And he talks to Michelle about, and then, or sorry, not Michelle, Evelyn about this, and she reveals to him that other people are having nightmares at the station too, and that it's been chalked up to some bad fruit. And I guess her own theory is that she's like, living underwater for long periods of time can have odd effects on us surface dwellers. So she's kind of skeptical about it. She's like the Scully to his Mulder. He's like, I think there's something here, and she's like, bad dates. No, I don't know.
Bad dates. I love that.
And then this is the part that
Bad dates.
that really sent a chill down my spine, because again, I could just see it in my mind. Vander tells him that she's only been eating canned fruit, which is awesome. And then she says, but I have been up late the last few nights looking into an anomaly that the sensors picked up over by Lermac Cove. She lowered her voice. A large gathering of Selkath were seen dancing. At least that's what I suppose you'd call it. You could hear what sounded like tribal drumming, but no one saw any instruments. The habits and culture of the Selkath aren't entirely known to us. A few xenobiologists said it was some kind of religious ceremony. And then Davin Halidom, he says, that's definitely weird. What did you think? I thought it was creepy. Something in their trance-like movements struck me as, I don't know, disturbing. But that's a feeling, not science. Just because something is outside of our cultural norms doesn't make it evil. I don't know. Listen, Evelyn, listen to your instincts, because that's clearly like that's super weird, and just like they're obviously undergoing some kind of ritual or rite. I kind of skipped over it, but earlier in the chapter,
Greatest fear is fear of the unknown.
Ansay, she talks to him when she's talking to Michelle. She's like, in time, I hope to introduce you to a new friend I've made. He is very shy, I believe you would say, and shuns the companionship of most. I fear his time in the war has hurt him somehow, but he seems encouraged by my company. I'm sure he'll get better, reassured Michelle. Is he as big as you? Oh, much bigger. I'm like, who is that person that she's referring to? I must know.
So, obviously, it's something that corrupted Ansay. So, like, I don't know.
So one, Death Star Super Laser Manon. That goes without saying. Two,
blow it up.
Just blow it up.
Just destroy it. I mean, that's been my feeling literally since I started that game. Two, if anybody here's seen The Witch, or the Vavitch, if you will,
that's what I call it too, actually, the Vavitch.
The Vavitch. Spoilers for anybody who doesn't want to. The very last thing you see are the Vavitches doing this, dancing to like groaning music and flying into the air, and that's exactly what I was.
They're dark rites, right? Like there's some crazy cult activity going on here. The cultometer is off the charts. We should have a cultometer. Every episode will have a cultometer, and it's off the charts in this one. Okay,
it is. Right, so these Selkaths summoned something,
or at least are like doing some kind of like processional dance to like praise it or something.
You can hear like the moaning and like, oh yeah.
Right. This has like the quality of some kind of dark religious ritual.
Yeah.
And I'm scared. This is fictional, but I'm scared.
Oh yeah, no. I can like you said, I can totally.
I'm getting my chewies
even in the style of the game. All right, I'm taking over.
I'm just kidding. I'm back.
I'm cooing the stream. So I can talk about how much I hate the Selkath. In that game, no, okay. To be fair to the Selkath, in the game, when you're in Hawkrit Station or whatever, which I can bring up another picture I got over here of of what I think is supposed to be the old station, according to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they say it gets rebuilt.
Yeah.
Because here's what I think is the old station, or the remains of it, or something like that. Or this could be or those could be the pillars. Now I think about it, but here's the rift, and then here is, where did you guys go? There you go. Here is the modern Hakrit station from the game, which is the worst part of the whole thing, and I hate it. But it has a really great atmosphere. To be fair to Manon, for once, it has a great atmosphere. And
Did
in
you
that
say that
section,
you hate it? This is a live Cellcast reaction to your hate.
Death Star super laser you, destroy the whole planet.
Racist.
Imagine this guy starts speaking Huttese to you.
Their voices give me a headache. I had to. I'm not going to get into it now. I will go on for an hour about how much I hate the Manon mission in KOTOR.
Okay, but what if the Cellcats came up to you and said the gates are opening? Like,
I wouldn't understand them because they're they make the worst noise I've ever heard in my entire life.
We got the subtitles.
Yeah.
Go,
I don't read the subtitles when it's Manon. I just keep skipping. I just don't want to hear it.
Well, then
I go
it's your
dark side,
fault.
kill the fish. No. Okay. All right. I'm gonna finish my point, and then I'm gonna tell you why I hate Manon so much. Very quickly. I promise.
No, do it. You have the floor. You have all the time you need to tell us why you hate Manon.
I'll do it quickly. So, just like Marcel said, I can perfectly imagine this in the style of the game, because when you go down to Harkrit Station, there are zombie Cellcath that attack you, and it sounds just like what they're describing. It's so good. I love it. I never thought I would say that about anything in Manon, because I hate that section, because you have to get in a big water suit and you move at 1 frame an hour, and it's torture. And then that's one of the reasons why I hate Manon so much. The other reason is if you don't pick up the data pad in the fortress, you have to restart the entire level, which is like 4 hours. And I did that my first playthrough. I forgot the data pad. They convicted me. They took me to court and they convicted me. And then they killed me, and I had to go back and I had to restart the entire thing. So from that point onward, I became the biggest Cellcath hater in history. I will love this title forever.
Clearly. So we have some answers here from Darth Sidious, that the Rakatans built the star map to brag, then tried to destroy them as they lost power. The star maps partially repaired themselves over the years. But like, to brag about what? Like, hey, come find our... I don't know. Who knows the mind of a Rakata? So much love for Manon.
Weird.
Manon is beautiful. It's a beautiful planet. I love the music. I hate everything else. And the music, the look of the place. It's
okay, I'm about to get real about Manon. When I first played KOTOR, it killed the momentum for me. The water planet. I don't know why. You
can't fight anything.
You know,
you have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
God forbid you have to follow the rules in a city like you do in real life.
Like you can't.
Al just wants to go Grand Theft Auto on Manon. He wants to listen.
I like to be a car setting, you know.
Of all the places in the game that I want to go Grand Theft Auto on, it's Manon.
Okay.
I want to say something not related to that.
Go.
Because I like Manon, but we're not going to get into that because I don't care. Whatever.
Fair enough.
I will say, it is quite an achievement of Joe's to make me be quite fearful of this chapter, because I don't like evil cults. I don't find them spooky. I don't find them scary. It's a staple of Lovecraft. It's something that Silent Hill 1 and 3 does, and I just don't care about it. I've never found it scary. But Joe Bongiorno still managed to make me... It's more about the implication of anything. And in retrospect to all of that, if all this stuff is still somehow, shape, or form still around, then you actually have something even more spooky when you replay KOTOR, because Manon is beautiful. But that's the thing, like, it's beautiful on the surface. Double pun, because it's a water planet. But secondly, because there's actually much darker undertones amidst everything else. So which would just make replaying KOTOR a lot scarier when you're like, oh, it's so happy, it's so peaceful, it's so beautiful, and there's some dark stuff going on this planet all the time. So
I think my next playthrough I'll be a lot more respectful to Manon. And to be fair, the idea of the trial is really cool. It's just that I wish I had an opportunity to not replay 4 hours worth of content.
The trial. I was like, what is this? Am I at work?
you need to save scum more often. That was your first
I
mistake.
should have. I didn't
was
know.
so stressed
I
out
was-
when I had that.
I
trial.
saved like every 5 minutes. That's how you do
I
it.
should have done that. I was.
I wish I could do that in real life, and then I'd win every single case that I had. So Michelle eventually tells Anse about Michelle tells Beyonce about. Sorry, I can't keep saying Anse without thinking Beyonce. She tells Anse about the nightmares that she's been having, and Anse, says, shook her great head in sorrow. Something is very wrong. And then we get some interesting lore just a bit below that. It's like, this is on page 745. Had they known of the world of Mare and of the Dark Dweller, I guess that's him that Anse was talking about earlier, they would have cautioned the massive Charybdian to avoid searching any further. They would have told her to flee these waters as quickly as she could with all of her companions and never come back. But they did not know of any such things. For they that reside in the shadow only reveal themselves at the end, and the wars were so very long ago. So, they try to warn everybody else in Hackert Station, like, we got to evacuate, we got to go to Atto City. Nobody will listen to them. This is like a disaster movie. Like, nobody will listen to them. They all think that they're crazy. And so Michelle essentially runs away from home with Davin, and they manage to right before they're departing the station, Evelyn Vandor like meets up with them. She's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you can't just take a child, Davin. Like, you're crazy. But he convinces her to basically be an accomplice to his essentially kidnapping. Although Michelle says, she's like, it's not kidnapping, I'm voluntarily going, like, we got to get out of here. And so Evelyn decides to join them, and I think she's the one who's piloting kind of like
she goes
submersible away.
Fine, but I'm driving.
Fine, but I'm driving. Yeah. And as they're piloting away from the station, it says that was when the cell cath, or sorry, basically what happens is the transparasteel glass starts to crack and break apart, and we're told that was when the cell cath appeared. They hadn't come to provide aid, as she'd assumed, as she'd hoped. The three sat in silence, watching from the safety of distance as they struggled to process the horror unfolding before them. Again, I can see this so clearly in my mind. Unable to intervene. Swimming through the corridors with tridents and spears, the Selkath began impaling the fleeing staff and scientists who'd managed to don aqua breathers or breathing suits. Alongside them came the Faraxin and Benexin sharks, working in schools as they hunted, ripping apart any and all they encountered. The waters of the flooded station soon turned pitch with the precious fluids of the station's inhabitants. It was then that they saw her. She rose up as an immense shadow, no longer the companion and storyteller that Michelle once knew. Anse was gone. In her place was some malevolent and merciless god, shoveling people into her mouth by the hundreds. Vandor heard cries of shock and of horror and shock, but they were coming from Haladom and Michelle as she soared onto Atto City at top speed, unable to get the images out of her mind. For a long time afterwards, there was no evidence for what had occurred apart from the eyewitness accounts of 3 survivors. The progenitor and the Selkath had vanished, and there were no traces of the victims. Michelle insisted on speaking to the Newsnet to tell their story. Some assumed it was a means for her to process the grief. That is just crazy.
That's awesome.
Well,
so good.
They tried to unsuccessfully warn people that that there was something dark was coming to the station. So I wasn't clear about that. That basically that, look, we're all having these collective nightmares, and all the nightmares are basically that, like, the station's going to get destroyed, and we're going to get attacked by sharks, and something big's going to rise from the deep, and nobody would listen. If
you've ever seen the movie The Fog by John Carpenter, it's basically the radio announcers. They're basically trying to be the radio announcer from that movie. There's something in the fog. There's something in the deep.
Yeah, something's coming, and we got to get off the station.
That's like one of my favorite like fictional things. Is like there's just this big like sea monster. I love those kind of things, and any type of like big like unknown creature. Like I love those things. It's like some of my favorite things in fiction. It's like it's just these big creatures, you know.
Megalodons.
Exactly. Like and just the unknown of the ocean is just it's fascinating because
We
like
know more about space than we do our own ocean.
exactly. There's like who knows what's down there? Just like
Yeah.
there's this thing that corrupted Ansei, and then you know this big massive creature shoveling like hundreds of people into its mouth. Like that's
I
ooh.
like to think that dinosaurs still exist, or at least some of them at the bottom of the ocean, because we can't handle the pressure after
Yeah.
a certain point. So I like to think maybe there's dinosaurs that survive the pressure.
I'm down
below
with
that.
that
But
theory.
I don't know. But I think it'd be cool.
So here's my pitch. Here's my pitch for what was corrupting Ansei. There is some sort of dark god at the core of Manon that will one day break loose of its prison, which is the planet, destroy Manon, and cause havoc across.
Anything so that Manon
I love
can-
Manon, but that's a really cool idea.
I think these
So.
I think these Cellcats summoned maybe one of the immortal gods, perhaps, or
one of their agents, something.
yeah, or maybe even like the man himself spoke to this, you know.
Yeah,
to
this
Ansei.
is. I just really need
Because
to.
who could be bigger?
I want to sit down and just flesh this story out. It's so brilliant. I love it so much.
No. Ooh.
But yeah, I mean, so in the aftermath, the three escape, and we're told that Davin and Evelyn raise Michelle as their own, and she becomes a teacher of interdisciplinary culture, religion, and myth to help young people comprehend the roots of galactic conflicts in history and provide a greater understanding of the cosmic wars beyond the hollow fodder. Which is interesting because that sort of turned my mind to like people, I guess, still know about the cosmic wars. They just don't know anything about them, right? But
Yeah.
I think the cosmic wars as a term exists in like the galactic parlance still, right? Like that's not because I think was it
I mean,
like
it could just be myths.
yeah,
And
Yeah, it
that's
could
the
be
thing,
like
is,
the
like,
Trojan War.
yeah. Do any of the characters ever mention in those old comics like Leia or something like that? They say, "Oh, the cosmic wars," or anyone?
Not that I can remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly possible.
And then we're told that that Michelle Voss helped found the historical society that has continued to this day, which is cool because that's like, isn't that like this entire discussion taking place at the historical society?
I believe so. Yeah, that's fun.
And I'm just going to read the last two paragraphs because, again, I just love this. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite parts. It's like a top 5 for me. Concerned. Yeah.
Sorry, the Cosmic Wars thing is Han Solo.
Okay.
There's a quote here. It says, everybody knows that Sol 5 was destroyed in a cosmic war eons ago.
Yeah. And we talked about Sol 5 like 1,000 streams ago. But
yeah.
There you go. I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Like, people know about the cosmic wars. They just don't really know anything about them.
That was Star Wars 84 in 1977.
Amazing. I'm actually rereading the series right now. I'm on issue 14. It's been slow going, but only because work's been so busy. But yeah, I want to read the last 2 paragraphs. So, concerned though the natives were that the intrusion on the Hackert Rift, concerned though the natives were that the intrusion on the Hackert Rift would spark the wrath of the legendary Mad One and her murderous guardians, the Republic's black site mercenaries deemed the Cellcath stories fables told to keep them on their toes against rival pharmaceutical interests or occupying Sith. So they laughed while the new Kolto harvester boomed into the depth. Yet ever there were whispers, and some who said that an unknown entity still dwelt in the deepest trenches, exerting a malevolent influence upon all who swim in its seas, waiting to rise again to devour all who dare enter the accursed waters. But none know for sure, for the oceans of Manon keep their secrets. I love that. I love it. Awesome. If there's one thing you can say about Joe, he knows how to end a chapter.
Yeah.
It perfectly ties in to KOTOR, where you get the option to kill the progenitor, which I always do because the Cellcath are mad at you afterwards. It's pretty big. It's like the size of a house, basically.
I always thought it'd be bigger.
It's I mean, you only get you like look above. I think you're below and you look up at it and it doesn't notice you. And then the options are destroy the tank or poison the tank. And if you poison the tank, it kills the fish. And then you go up top side and they're like, you killed our fish. And if you don't, they're like, "Oh, thank you for not killing our fish." So
It could have been the case that that it diminished over time. Like we see that with other things, right? That like they get smaller over time.
Remember the spider from Endor?
Spider, yes.
Yeah.
What was it? Wishchalk, right? That was its name?
Yeah.
Wishchalk.
So Ken, you didn't find this part that interesting. Is that correct?
Yep.
You said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But you said that the prose is what sort of carried you
Yeah,
through.
the way that Joe describes all this terrifying stuff just had me like, I was like pooping. I was like creeped out.
Yeah.
But I just didn't find it interesting. But
that's cool.
And Al's whole Manon rant has that whole I don't like this, of course.
The whole time I was reading it, I was thinking, I was like, damn, Al must be like.
I must really hate the Manon.
I loved it.
I
loved
it.
How
one of my
many
favorites
Scandits would it take to drink all the waters of Manon?
Billions, probably.
Infinite Scandit.
Probably as many as it would
Quadrillions.
take to make the rock wizard stop vibing. So we've not hit that point yet. We don't know what it is.
But the rock wizard is always vibing.
He's always.
There's something wrong with this city.
A man has fallen into the waters of Manon.
The
Manon
entire
City.
planet is covered by water.
One Scandit drinks entire ocean.
I just want to go back to this joke, Grand Theft Auto. That's so funny.
awesome. I love that.
And so now we come to the last chapter we're going to talk about tonight, but it's also quite long, and we're probably going to spend a lot of time on it. So,
Yeah.
chapter 72, Suzal and the Sorcerers of Rand.
And we have pictures of these characters too.
Oh yeah, of course we do.
Yes, we do. I love
Paper,
it.
scissors, rock wizard.
Matt knows. Matt gets it.
Matt.
That's right. The rock wizard. Can we throw up the rock wizard again? Let's just
Here, let's get him up here.
Let's get a rock wizard.
I know I'm the only one who likes the rock wizard versus Scandit joke, but I laugh at it every time. Every time I think about it, I start giggling. I don't know why. I don't know why this one
vibe.
dumb joke keeps getting me. But
well, you know, the only part I didn't like about the last chapter, there was no Paw Patrol.
Wait
Look at him.
Wait a second.
Look at him.
Wait. Oh, he's so great. Look at him. He's vibing.
He's so vibing.
Oh
my God. The vibe master. The vibes are immaculate with him.
So funny.
Who's doing it like him? That's right. Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
It's amazing.
I'm looking at other pictures. They're too small to pull up, but like the rock wizard on Wikipedia. Actually, maybe I can go to Wikipedia and try and pull them up that way. When he comes out of like his
If I
hut
ever
and-
get a tattoo, that will be it. There you go, Matt. It will be the rock wizard on my back.
Is it like an entire back, like a whole back tattoo?
A whole back of the rock man himself.
he's just
So
telling the
your
Ewoks.
back
He's
is-
like, so. And so these Scandits kept coming at me, and I told them.
So the Scandits kept coming after me, but they can't stop the vibes.
Wow, did you hear that? Did you hear that story, Kanisa?
He was straight vibing, Kanisha.
Wicket, you're such a lurdo.
No.
Wicked, you're such a silly man. Oh my god.
You're a lodo.
Alex is getting a rock wizard tattoo soon.
That's why I made the joke.
So, like, Alex's back is all rock wizard. His front, his face, everything is all Scandits.
I would
yeah,
watch.
it's a symbology.
Where's
would
the
know.
naked Palpatine?
Hey, well, this
We
is
don't-
a family-friendly
I
stream.
can't show you that one.
To be fair, Matt's right. You gotta have rocks to confront that wizard. You have to listen. Wizards, low con characters. If you can get them in melee, they're done. Except for the rock wizard, of course, obviously.
I'm selling.
He's got a high defense.
There he is.
There he is. Yeah.
Somehow the rock wizard returned.
Okay, well, let's get back onto Supernatural Encounter. We've veered far off course, but we needed that little interlude ourselves to cleanse our palate for the next part. Palpatine's rocks of super work content. Yeah,
Rocks.
you gotta have rocks to confront the wizard. That's well, indeed.
No.
It's just these jokes just write themselves.
They do.
I love how Let me see if I can actually pull up the text itself. Suzal and the Sorcerers of Rand. It's kind of
Was
small.
a sadist.
The sacred genetic.
Just starts
Suzal
with like
Dunbar. Yeah, Suzal Dunbar was a sadist. That's the first line.
Yeah.
Suzal Dunbar.
In his early years, took pleasure in the abuse and torture of anything smaller than him.
Right?
Marcel,
Also,
once we get to it, could I read the paragraph on 750 that starts with Braun awoke?
Of course,
Once we
yeah.
get there.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
That's the next page. So yeah, we're told Suzal Dunbar was a sadist, and we're introduced to this character who lives on the planet Rennick, which is part of the true Sith Empire, and one of the planets within the Red Nebula that winds lazily in the 6 stellar clusters that are called the Dark Worlds.
Dark greeting.
Dark greetings. That's right.
Dark greetings, my friend.
You know what Suzal and all these what they reminded me of? They reminded me of the Krath
yeah.
from Tales of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Sital and Alima Kato.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Love those two, though. Those two crazy dark side twins.
And to provide further context, we're told that he's a product of this
The
world.
father who had a venomous hate for his eldest son's mischievous, trubric face. Oh, okay, I guess I'm doing all this now, which too closely reminded him of his dead wife and the daughter he dishonored and killed during an argument when she threatened to expose him. Crime among Rennick. Oh, we're done.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
But that we're also introduced to some of some other characters that kind of come up later as Mordecai Parsons. And his sister, Suzal's sister Eileen, had been promised to Mordecai, but Braun, I believe, killed Eileen. It says he would. Oh, it says although a preening, contemptuous brute who would likely have beaten Eileen as well, Mordecai would not allow a dubious death of his fiancée to go uninvestigated and unpunished. Right. So Braun had killed her. He dishonored and killed during an argument when she threatened to expose him. So Braun's the father. Suzal, who's the main character here, we're focusing on, is the son. Eileen was the daughter, and she was promised to Mordecai. Braun kills Eileen, but probably a fit of rage. Although Mordecai probably would have killed her as well. He investigates, and Braun is stripped of rank and privilege. And then we're told that Suzal, even though he was kind of perverse and weird, he's an intelligent and well-read individual.
Nice.
I hate to, okay. Between a rock wizard. Oh man, me too.
Between
me too. Oh no, thank you. I'd rather fight all those Scandits off than
unlimited Scandits.
Skibbity Scandits.
Skibbity.
Skibbity.
Somebody say
Scandits.
I don't want to gloss over this footnote. I thought it was kind of interesting the attempt to reform the League of Dark Worlds by Count Zarth Arn of Demundia, a descendant of one of the Star Kings, failed when pirates sent by the noble emperor thwarted the fool's efforts. I kind of glossed over that a bit when I was reading it, but I was like, I'd like to know a bit more about that. But
Count Zarth Arn of Demundia.
So we're getting to the part that you want to read, Ken, but essentially what happens is, since this fall from grace, Suzal decides to confront his father, who's become a bit of a wastrel in the meantime, and that's where we get to this part that Ken's going to read for us.
All right, you want me to start now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Braun awoke from his stupor, head pounding, face throbbing. Suzal handed him a glass of water, grabbed a chair, and sat before him, patiently waiting for him to show signs of cognizance. Can you understand me? Or do I need to call a mender? When Braun shook his head, Suzal proceeded to inform him of the new state of affairs. At the first sign of protest, which came early on, he grabbed him by the collar and drew him near. Listen to me very carefully, old man, because I will not repeat myself. You drove mother to an early grave, murdered your daughter, and made a pariah of our family. You were never anything but a miserable Nimgat, or Nimnat. Worse, you become a cliché. It's over now. You will regain the place in society you once had. If you do not, I will simply put an end to your pathetic and unhappy existence. Understand that I fully mean this, and that it is no idle threat. No one will miss you or inquire after your corpse. Tell me you understand. When his father nodded, he continued, See, you have killed but one person. I have killed many. It is no great thing to add your name to that list. So here is how things are going to work.
Very nice. And so, yeah, we're told that after that, Bronn cleans up his act and gets the family back in social. He kind of raises their social capital back to at least to where it used to be.
Yeah.
But it takes several weeks for him to do that.
Yeah, like before that whole thing that Ken just read, Suzel beats the crap out of his dad.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Beats the poop out of him.
Might I add, that was
to within an inch of his life or something like that. I think I recall reading. Yeah.
That was some good voice work.
Thank you.
Some of my favorite of yours.
Mm-hmm.
It was very
I
good.
love voicing evil nobles.
Yeah, you channeled him.
You should definitely do some anime or something.
I know. I should do dub work.
It gives, I don't know. I got a lot of Game of Thrones vibes, like just like the inter-family conflict. You know, it gave me that kind of vibe, like especially like Lannister kind of vibe. You know.
I love this part at the end. He was a mystery to the nobility and something of a novelty, and he knew how to play to both. Where once he'd been seen as morose and peevish, he was now spirited and charming. Where once he'd been considered odd and ugly, he was now witty and handsome.
Tyrion Lannister?
And
now I struck a king. My hand fall from his wrist.
I love these like one sentence paragraphs at the beginning of every like little subchapter. It would not be long before he sought a wife. And then we're introduced to Kubari Parsons, who's insane, by the way. She's always like just cackling. So Kubari is the daughter of Mordecai, who was betrothed to Suzal's sister at a certain point, right? And her grandfather is a guy named Balthazar, who we're going to be talking about. But Balthazar we're told, was the youngest of the Sith acolytes of Rennick to make his sojourn to the Nile retreat. So he went even further into the unknown regions and come back alive, which was in itself an accomplishment. Having been taught from the Kisai sorcerers on Rand, he was elevated to join the Council of Enlightened Elders that now ruled Rennick. Right? So that's kind of cool. That's like some dark lore there.
He went on a sojourn. That's my only comment.
I knew you were going to say something about that. I knew you were, because when I read it, I was like, I absolutely knew. I thought
like whom, Alex? Is there an allegory that we can talk about that appears later?
I wonder, Alex. Who are you talking about?
Mystery.
Is it does his last name Solo?
Solo.
Solo.
This time.
No,
Solo Chon Wookie.
I just knew it when I was reading it. I was reading it the other day. It said he went on a sojourn into the Nile retreat. I was like, Alex is going to say something about that. I literally said
like
that.
Like a certain other character had a 5-year sojourn. Is that
the dark side? And like his sister killed him, and I
don't know. Thou sealed.
I remember Alex at Legends Con like talking to Matt Stover, and he's like, "But it could work, can't it?" And he tells Matt Stover about the concept of supernatural encounters, and then gets Matt to agree that it would work. This is the most demented conversation I've ever been privy to. It was amazing.
Matthew Stover.
At that moment, Matt Stover wished he had 6 billion Scandits.
The thing about Matt Stover, and the reason why I love him is because like he won't just like he's amazing and a nice guy, but he won't just be like, "Oh yeah, you're right," like just to appease you. Like he will tell you what he thinks.
No, he argued with me for a bit, but we kind of came to some sort of mutual understanding, but we were still very clearly not on the same page. But he treated me like a Jedi master, because there's a part I wasn't able to say everything I wanted to say because I was talking to Matthew Stover, so I was kind of fumbling over what I wanted to say. And if it was somebody like you guys, I would have articulated it better. But since it was him, I was like trying to formulate proper.
He was Selcaf when he was talking. Yeah,
literally. So because there's a lot of spiritual realities to the expanding universe, I was trying to make a point there. I won't get too much into this. This is a side thing, but he goes to me. He's like, maybe, but. Because I mentioned the cave of Dagobah, and multiple sources in the EU, throughout the EU, they call it a cave of the dark side.
Dark side.
There is dark side. There is for a fact dark side energy in it. But he said, okay, but just the film, episode 5, what does it say? Only what you take with you.
A domain of evil.
And I was like, like a teacher. I was like, damn it, you're right. But if you include the EU, I think you're wrong. But I didn't get to say that because I was scared.
I just love this guy like argues with the guy who wrote Traitor. The brass Scandit's on you, my friend, to be able to argue.
He's got more rocks than the
I
rock
took my
wizard.
shot and I went for it.
Okay.
So
oh man, Legends Con 2 is gonna be a trip.
Yeah, Ken, the Bloodborne part that I was talking about, it's not actually like Bloodborne, but it kind of reminded me of Bloodborne, was there's this reference on page 751 to the Undercity of Yithon. It says Rotland had been constructed on the outskirts of the Undercity of Yithon, a once thriving hamlet, now haunted by the ghoulish ones, walking corpses of the punished and pathetic, who displease the powers on Rennick, cursed to dream of returning to their good graces. And I was like, that kind of like reminds me of
Hamlet.
Yeah, like, you know, or like a old Yarnum or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Kuberi sees a lot of potential in Suzal because they're both insane and evil. He could play the role of an elite well enough, but his eyes shone a malice she had only seen in her grandfather. Suzal was the answer to her darkest prayers. And then this is a really interesting part where religions on Rennick it says religion was generally dismissed by Rennick's nobles, who considered it a parochial leftover of a bygone age, but none dared to remove the temples of the ancients. Typhagim yet held the most fascination, particularly amongst youthful males, though a smaller contingent swore by Kopakon, that would be Cold Dan Design, I believe. One could find temples dedicated to the Night Queen, that would be Gorog, but they lay in ruins, for her depiction as a Spider Queen was considered hideous. A portrayal not helped by the myths, which had her battling Uru the healer and his noble brothers Zero the hero and Kuru the sage.
Zero the hero.
The shrines of which still stood. And we were told about this earlier in the book, how the Waru what are the other ones called? Uthaquan and Naigath and Uradril. Yeah, would go around to, I believe Kuru is probably Oradril and Zero is what? Uthaquan maybe? I don't know. But in any event, they would go around to planets and like create these like false cults for them, like people would praise them and stuff like that. So, and it says the goddess, on the other hand, that being, of course, Telotni, was perennially popular amongst women, young and old. The ancient pure-blooded priestess of Tund, who built her idols, had amalgamated aspects of Via, Val, and Onrai for her, but sagaciously refrained from using those names, fusing instead an ever-youthful figure of duality in the dancing goddess. And we're told that they gave her this wide appeal. This gave her wide appeal to the masses on Rennick, especially in her role as the vanquisher of her nemesis, a nameless demon god known only as the Soul Worm. The Soul Worm is her. I just love this, like this deterioration of myth and religion, and it's just like these false narratives spring up that people believe in.
I miss me.
So much time has passed. Yeah, I know, me too. But none of these are Balthazar's gods. He tells his granddaughter. She asks him, "What gods do you pray to?" And he turns his hypnotic gaze on her and says, "Of the ancient pantheon of the immortal gods, there are the architects and the great old ones, powerful and dominant, 7 in all, though some say 8, but only 6 who are revered." So I was trying to figure that out in my head. I'm like, 7 in all, though some say 8, maybe because Horus left, so that's the 7 in all. But then who's the one that's not revered? Is that Mungal?
As I can imagine, he would probably be the only one that's not
revered. Okay.
Yeah.
Because he's not mentioned in sort of the previous part.
But I mean, Splendid App kind of flies under the radar.
He does, but I think we're told earlier in the book that there's like shrines to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People do revere him. And he says,
it's gotta be.
But there are those older still, 9 outer gods of unlimited power, and it is to these that we make petition. They have many names and guises, and their true faces are reserved only for the most worthy. They're the Lord of the Worlds, the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of the Abyss, the Lord of Corruption, the Lord of the Dead, the Lord of Deception, the Lord of Demons, the Lord of the Plains. The Lord of Darkness stands above all the others, for he is first of the bringers of the light of wisdom, and from whom are derived the 7 sciences, what are ascetic and hypocritical adversaries call sins. Is that like the 7 deadly sins? Perhaps, I don't know.
Maybe, or an allegory to it.
And for lesser beings, perhaps they are. But for those of us who would be kings, they are the natural states which we strive to master. I'm trying to figure out like who's who. So like the Lord of the Dead. Oh god, we had this like down pat a while ago.
Hold on. Well, I have the notes in here. Hold on.
I will hold on. Suns smile on you, Ken. That's right. Praise the sun.
Titus. Good.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, bro. The sun's indeed smile upon you.
Where the hell did it go?
Okay, well, you keep looking for your notes. I'm going to just read quickly the next part. It says, so it's like she asks, are they not slumbering, as the story say? And she's like, they wait for the time that the stars are right. Until then, their helpers work to bring about their wishes. The Devourer, the Lord of the Winds, the Dread Mother, the Black Thing, the Demon of Vengeance, and the Ascended Ankaf. Powerful archdemons ready to assist those who are worthy. I love how he's like, they're like the we're the light. They're bringing the light. And he calls them like archdemons. I was like, dude, you should just say angels.
All right,
Be like Cenobites, angels to some, demons to others. Yes, please tell us.
I've got the names, but not like what they're lord of.
Okay.
But there was like Sithlan, Cordil, Eosphoros, Lothan, Astor, and Zahar.
Yeah, see, I think Eosphoros was the Lord of the Dead, right? He was like the...
I actually have the thingy. Remember the thing that we have?
Yeah, that's not... And then, he also says, for it is known that after Bishop Mandible, who is the trans-ultimate apostle of the anti-secular conclave of clerics, successfully worked the Mother of Chaos ritual, and then he gets interrupted. I was like, no, I want to keep hearing about the lore.
All right, I got the titles now.
Okay.
So, where is it? The Lord of Worlds, that's Sithlan. And then Lord of the Dead is Eosphoros.
I was right.
Lord of Plains, the Lord of Plains is Astor. Lord of the Abyss is Yamka. Lord of Chaos is Lothan. Lord of Deception is Zahar. And Lord of Corruption is Cordil or Keiko.
Okay, that makes sense about Corruption, Cordil, Keiko, because as you see in heavy metal, the green orb corrupts people. And then Lord of Deception being Zahar is interesting because we sort of see like that interdimensional being deceiving people earlier in the book. So that makes sense. Lord of the Worlds is interesting. I'm curious why Sithlan is called that. The one that struck me is, sorry, who did you say Lord of the Abyss was?
Lord of the Abyss is Yamka.
So we haven't met Yamka yet at all, have we?
I think we did briefly.
Okay, maybe
not like.
Okay.
You know.
I just love that part on Balthasar's Gods, and then so eventually Kuberi Parsons and Suzelle Dunbar get married, and their family kind of like buries the hatchet because there's like a bit of a intergenerational feud there. But I love how like they just laugh at their families afterwards, or they call them frauds, fakirs, and dissemblers. And together that very night they made plans. It's like, whereas most marriages, after you get married, you go and like celebrate, like your wedding. Instead, they're like, no, like let's plan how we're gonna send.
We shall take a honeymoon to the charnel worlds.
I'd go.
So they have 2 children, Suzelle and Kuberi. Chakla is their daughter, and 2 years later, their son Maven.
Oh,
Mavin, and I think Mavin is like he's kind of like a sociopath.
He's such an ass.
See, if I had to describe them all,
so
Chakla has a fiance named Chell, and he seems kind of like the only one who has like a bit of a conscience. But even then, like not much because he's teaming up with his family, and they become the Cult of Five. This is what gave me like Krath vibes, right? It says that they started a secret society known as the Cult of Five, inviting interested members of the gentry who were known to have an infatuation with occult matters. It's almost like the Golden Dawn and stuff like that, and you think of like cults in our own world. But in any event, so the interesting thing here is that like I think like each of them are very well characterized because they all have different different personality traits. Like Mavin is kind of like a sadistic sociopath. As much as Suzal is like a sadist, he's more I would say reserved and in control, whereas Mavin kind of strikes me as like a bit of a loose cannon. He's like chaotic. See, it's like if I had to give them all, like he's like chaotic evil is Mavin, and then Suzal is like neutral evil. Kuberi's kind of like chaotic evil as well, I guess. But she's and then Chakla and Chell are like either like lawful neutral or like neutral evil, or sorry, lawful evil is what I wanted to say. They're like kind of more on the. They're not as like loose cannons as the rest of them.
Mavin.
Yeah.
Is Joffrey.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He definitely gives off a Joffrey vibe.
Very Joffrey.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the 5 from Empire Strikes Back weekly number whatever, and Mavin is the little itty bitty one.
Can we throw up pictures of all of them?
I got it here.
You know what? Mavin's a little twerp though. My God, he's so annoying.
Here. Give me one.
The subheading for this chapter is called "Children of the Damned," which also is like one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs.
It's so nice what happens to these people.
Ha!
Look at them.
So here's Han's hand, and then this is
Chell.
This one's Chell. This one's Chakla. I kept mixing these two up. Yeah. This is Mavin. This is Koberi, and then Suzal.
Who are we? We are 5.
We are
Mavin just looks so smug. He's like,
look at him. Look at the little twerp.
Smug little.
Can you read this? Who are we? We are 5 in your Suzal voice.
Who are we? We're 5.
Ew.
Is she like eating something? I don't know.
Okay, I have to,
it says she's known for her large appetites.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
I'm going to read one of the passages, Marvin being a smarmy boy.
Oh, he's such a jerk.
When we finish this chapter, I know it's going to be already long, but I suggest we quickly, before we end the stream after the end of this chapter, we read that particular section of Devil Worlds with Woztek and them.
I'm
Let's do it.
It's so good.
I think it would complete it.
Do a reading.
But it's so good what happens to these people in the end. Like when you know.
We'll consider it. We'll table it for now and we'll consider it. See let's see what we where we end up. But I love this. So Suzal basically starts collecting grimoires and replacing them with fakes and false copies. It says, including the rare and significant 19 curses, also known as the Book of Unspeakable Words.
Is that a George Carlin reference?
I don't know, but I love it. The 19 curses, the Book of Unspeakable Words.
Those were mentioned in a prior.
It was, yeah. It's one of like the great grimoires of the Sith. It says the Cult of 5 went on to become one of the most popular societies on Rennick. Sorry, Ken. Before I go on, what page was your thing on that you wanted to read?
If you just find a passage where he's being smarmy, I can read it.
Okay, sure. Their weekend bacchanalias, hedonistic revelries, where all manner of appetites were satisfied, became things of legend. Their solstice and equinox rituals were magical spectacles, providing a wonderfully eerie atmosphere that saw greater attendance at each event.
Marcel, for this last paragraph, I have like a little tangent I want to go on real quick. So
sure,
there's an anime called, or it's a manga, different anime called Devilman, and they have this thing called Sabbath parties, and they're basically like these hedonistic orgies with like drugs, sex, violence, and they're in the Devilman lore, like devils are basically a constant on Earth, and so people will use the Sabbath parties as like demonic possession. They'll kill people, possess people. And it's basically just a homing point for demons.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And they have cool wave music. So.
That's what we have here, right? And then we get the idea, the naming behind the cult. It's according to legend in the Liber Evonus, which is another grimoire. Here, why don't you read this part? Actually, this is a Mavin. I think it's on page 754. The Cult of 5 was so named. That part. That's him speaking.
Okay.
Cult of 5 was so named for the most ancient, the Lords of Shadow. For according to the legend of Liber Ivonis, Marvin paused for a moment, pleased with himself at having painstakingly recovered and restored several damaged chapters. There had been 5 renegade leaders at the start, later joined by 1. These brought together others to take down the Dawn World because they would not be followers, but masters. Yet for their fearlessness, they were cast into the depths as resistors and opposers. Agents of chaos they remain, and their revolution continues to this day. In their honor, do we call them forth that they may return the cosmos to the fires of oblivion from which it will be remade in their image.
What of us? Asked Chell, horrified by such a prospect. Are we to go into the fires of oblivion as well?
Mavin grinned wickedly. You need not fear, Chell, for the servants of the shadows are always rewarded.
I love that part. So they all get assigned. So Suzal wants to basically carry out his plan, and they all get assigned various roles. And Chell and Mavin, who don't like each other, and Chell is made very nervous by Mavin's presence, get teamed up by Suzal, and their role is to go steal the 2 great life jewels that were kept as heirlooms in the royal citadel. And those 2 great life jewels are the previous Crystal Riders, Carnel and Cornus, and they were the red jewels that Typhagem is wielding in that one picture that we've shown a few times. Let me just open it up.
Yeah, it's awesome artwork. Why not look at it again?
Yeah, we will.
Good stuff. Good. Look at that.
Also, it's cool that we have this up because there in the background is the Nil Aphoras, that ship, right? So yeah, those are the 2 red jewels, and then I think the white one is the Soul Destroyer, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the black one. I forget what it's called.
The black one is Telatni's heart. I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
Wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Sad. I miss her.
And this is like where he's like Masenko beaming Wutzek. Special beam cannon. So yeah, that's that's their job, is to steal those 2 crystals, which are on Rennick. Interestingly enough, and Chakla, the daughter, her task was to steal the Hallowed Destroyer, a strange and massive vessel that once had belonged to Sikranash, the legendary servant of Typhagem and an ancient ruler on Rennick who started the Council of the Enlightened long ago. It was he who was credited with writing several of their histories. Considered a sacred artifact from the ancient days, the ship was never used and had been regularly guarded for as long as anyone could remember. It also had a reputation for being haunted. So basically the ship has just been lying around, vibing, one might say.
Not unlike a rock wizard.
That's right.
A rock wizard, you say?
The entire wizard is made out of rock. Sorry.
But we don't know yet. The entire wizard is made out of rock. That's so funny. We don't know yet what Suzal and Kubari's part of the plan is, but we know that they have one as well. That's told a little later on. But now the narrative kind of takes us through what happens to Mavin and Chell. And basically, Chell bungles it. They manage to steal one of the 2 great life jewels. Chell drops his and he just flees because he doesn't want to get caught. And he's in danger of getting caught. He's in a panic. He fled down the right corridor, toppling into a statue of some obscene creature. The gem flew out of his hand and he tumbled back down the hallway from where he'd fled. The telltale patter of the Dune Runners, those are like the guards, made up his mind. He left it behind. But luckily, Mavin was able to secure one of the great life jewels.
It sounds like a very Scooby-Doo like moment. Like,
whoa, no,
and drops it. You know,
so you did give Shell a little bit of a Shaggy, a little bit of like a.
Well, because he's such a dope. He's like, what are you doing?
And Maven says as much so many times that he's like adult.
Yeah, and like now it puts it in context. He's like a little kid telling him. He's like,
I know. They're so mean to him.
I didn't realize which one was which. So when I also forgot what they looked like. So when I looked up later, what are the 5? Oh, you were being tacked down to by a child, by an infant.
Yeah.
He
What
looks like a Chad guy with his like long flowing hair, and then like this little twerp is just like talking
He-
down to him.
Yeah.
He looks like what I imagine Prince Isildur to be.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Isildur.
I can get behind that.
You mean Isolder or like
Or,
Isildur?
Isoldur. Sorry.
Isildur.
Sorry.
Older.
Isildur.
I literally when I went to like pick out like who he should be in my mind, I literally picked Fabio. So
Yeah.
So did I when I was reading him.
What I love about this part is that it weaves in continuity from earlier parts of the book. So we have the Hallowed Destroyer, which turns out to be Typhagim's ship, the Nil Afaras, that wedge-shaped ship, I believe, in the cover. We have Sekranash. We have the two Great Life Jewels, which used to be Carnel and Cornus, the Crystal Riders. And of course, we learned previously that whenever they're taken away from one another, it causes devastating effects. Devastating effects, because I believe Typhagim tried to do that, and it caused devastating effects. And we're going to see that very shortly here, because they took off with one gem and left the other one behind. But before we get there, on page 757, when they get back, they see that the Hallowed Destroyer has been stolen. It says Chell noticed a massive gleaming ship on the grounds. It hurt to look at it, as if it wasn't quite in one place. I love that.
That's so cool.
It says, compounded with the sound of the howling still in his ears and the fear of what his failure might mean, he turned away from it. And
Can I read the next?
Sure, you can start with the here. Wait, let me situate myself. It's on page 757. We're on. Hold on.
Put it up on the screen if you like.
I can actually do that.
I'm on the page, but you can put it up everywhere else.
I intend to. I'm just scrolling there. We've actually gotten quite farther than I thought we would, in less time than I thought we would. So here, I'm gonna put it back up.
The cat is being
chapters
destructive.
were short.
Yeah, this one had I had a lot of notes on this chapter, just because there was quite a robust narrative, I thought. Here you can start with. You can do. I want you to do Suzelle's voice too, but Mavin,
Sure,
you can start with the dolt.
The dolt lost the jewel. Mavin was all too pleased to report. Suzal shook his head in consternation, but to Chell's relief, he said, "One should suffice," muttering under his breath about having to make provisions for additional safeguards. "You better hope it does," Mavin warned Chell, "or you'll end up like them." Chell didn't know what he meant by that, feeling only too thankful to be back in Chokla's arms, sipping a delicious and intoxicating green nectar Kuburi had handed them. I think I've been reading too many of your father's books," he finally said to her as her awesome ship began to rise. I thought I saw something outside before I came in, and what was that storm and all that howling?" Kuburi hooted in her unpleasant, grating way before screeching out, "That was our guest being sucked dry." Marvin burst as if he had been the funniest thing anyone had ever said. "But my family, they were amongst the guests," he stated, confounded by her meaning. "Oh, now, don't look like that, dearest Chell," she continued between guffaws. "It wasn't just them. It was all of the noble families. You see, we needed them. And now we get to live forever." The three cackled again. When even Chokla cracked a smile, Chell began to chuckle too. It must be some kind of game or hazing ritual, he thought, and promptly forgot about it.
And so, like, look at that guy. Like, we're gonna stop there, but like, look at that guy. Like, what a dope. His family just got killed. He's like, oh, they're probably joking.
Yeah.
It must be a kind of game or hazing ritual.
Bro's such a dunce.
It was a ritual.
They just make him basically laugh that his family just like got like insanguinated, you know?
Yeah.
Someone drank your family.
They're like, good one.
That's literally the plot of a South Park episode, for the record.
They're like, good one, guys.
Your family died. Goodbye.
I love how Mavin calls him stupid and lazy, and he tells him that the Hallowed Destroyer is actually Nil Afaris. Here, could you just read this line for us, Ken? This one right over here that I'm going to highlight.
He's a halfway. Why do you want to marry an imbecile?
And so he tells him, he's like, it's the ancient ship of Typogem. Like, these guys know what's up, right? Like, whereas I feel like everybody else on Rennick has kind of forgotten a bit of the old ways and the old myths. Like, they know, they've read the old texts. Like, they're well versed in this arcane lore and history. Yeah, Nil Aphorus backwards is Sarah Palin. Crazy.
What?
It's addressed in an endnote. I think Joe only realized afterwards. He's like, it was never really his intention. So it might just be like the weirdest coincidence in the world. The timing had to be right for the spell to work. So basically, what they did was over 2,000 souls. There's so many like number 2,000 souls getting sacrificed in these chapters, but essentially, the plan for what Suzal and Kubri were doing is that they were doing this ritual that resulted in the sacrifice of over 2,000 souls, people that attended their party, right? And that was used to power the Hallowed Destroyer, as I understand.
You know, and to give them longevity in life.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what Vitiate did. He just drained these people of life and then became immortal. So these guys did it before it was cool.
They did it before it was cool. That's right. Yeah. So it's funny because also here Mavin starts digging at. Oh, hello. Good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's well.
Hey.
Jade Light. I was talking about you today. I was saying what a cool dude you were. Yeah. We see here that Mavin's trying to like dig at Chell and basically be like, how do you think she got the Nil Aphorus? She slept with the shield guard. Like, that's what he's implying, right? That's enough, Mavin, Chocolate yelled. And we're told that sexual mores on Rennick were considerably looser, but still, like, it obviously bothers him, right? He had turned redder than the great jewels. I love that part. And then basically they tell Chell that they're going to knock the softness out of him. Just as Suzal will knock the foolishness out of you. And I mean, then he realizes finally, Chell, he's like, my parents, my whole family, they're dead. It couldn't be real. What monsters would do such a thing and for what reason? It's like, well, for power, right? And
I wonder if the previous chapter, I wonder if the Spellcast was trying something similar. I don't really get any idea why. maybe they had like a similar idea, or just keep sacrificing people until we get some dark god to rise up out of the depths.
I'd rather never know exactly what they're doing.
No.
I think that's
my theory.
Yeah, a game.
The mystique of it is not knowing.
Sad face.
He retired. Yeah.
I know. That's why I said sad face.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And so this next part, basically, to get back to the narrative, is Mavin I think he calls his mother a stamp crab, which I thought was very funny. After she sprays green liquid from her mouth, he's like, that stuff doesn't exactly come easy. And he says, like, Chell's not very happy. Mavin, leave him be. You don't have human feelings. You can't understand. Chocolate chided. Caused the boy to turn away with a scowl. It was a necessary last step in the ritual.
Poor kid.
She said. I didn't tell you. She's like, I did tell you to finish reading those chapters. You would have been better prepared. Don't mollycoddle him. We are not conventional humans any longer. We are 5. We are true sorcerers called to a greater purpose. I love how these like random characters that show up in a funny comic from like years ago are just now like elevated to the level where
to being good, being cool.
Yeah, being cool villains.
In a cool color.
Yeah.
Summoning demons.
Yeah. We got some more comments here. Now, and hear me out, a droidica with force capabilities. I'm all for it. Actually, I think that would be amazing. Matt Pat, when he was a small time. Yeah. Yeah, man. I totally get it. Me too, actually. I haven't been super active. Hello, good to see you, Comfort Eagle.
Hey.
Hi, Franklin.
And so we get some more lore on the Hallow Destroyer here, but basically they want to defeat the Garden of Light. They want to use the Nil Aphorus, or the Hallow Destroyer. Also, they reveal at this point that they have the Soul Destroyer on that was wielded by Typhagim himself, and they're going to use that to destroy Wootsek. So they're going to special beam cannon Wootsek again.
Special beam cannon.
Yeah.
Special beam cannon.
Beam cannon. Special beam cannon.
Yeah.
Had a few.
I don't watch anime. I don't know what any of this means.
Oh, special beam cannons from Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z.
I knew it was Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I knew it was.
No, he knew it. I don't think Al knew.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Yeah. So.
Oh, I'm not I don't know much about anime.
It's okay. It was just my childhood.
It's fine.
Oh,
not
while we
really.
take a little break, go ahead, Chalk. Hold on.
But the next section is the Hallowed Destroyer, and we learned that it's it's basically a sentient ship, just like how Ship is, like in Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi. And the five want to get the attention of Wootsek. So they make the decision to attack. Well, with Ship's guidance, they say that they don't want to attack anywhere that's too in the realm of populated areas, so that they're kind of not entangled in things. So the ship, the Nil Aphorus, tells them to attack Varl, which we know from the Alien Exodus, the Varlians, and which are the proto Hutts. So the Hutts are kind of vibing on Varl currently, along with the Rybits and everything. Then they essentially just want to cause enough suffering so that they can lure out Wootsek and achieve their mischievous ends. Yeah.
Indeed. What's interesting about the Varl section is we learn why Hutts might be arrogant. So at this.
Oh,
at this
yeah,
point
that's
here,
right.
It says the appearance of Wootsek. So basically, what happens is, I think you just explained, Max, that Wootsek, they want to draw him out of hiding, essentially, right? And so they attack Varl and basically decimate it. But Wootsek appears and he saves the Hutts by relocating them to Evokar, and the Rybets and all the living creatures on these worlds, relocates them to Evokar, which later is renamed Nalhutta, a large planet sparsely populated by the near-human Evokai, which was a tremendous shock to the Hutts, who interpreted their salvation in an odd way, for Wootsek never got the opportunity to speak with them as he intended. Thus, the Hutts came to believe that due to their survival of the Cataclysm, they'd been elevated by the gods to the status of demigods.
That's so
Crazy.
Funny. So the
That is
Hutts have
funny.
just been arrogant for ages, and it's all because of Wootsek.
Wow,
It's all because
thanks,
of-
Wootsek.
It's all because of Wootsek. And the sad thing about this part is that also it's really funny. I just want to go back for a second to when they're talking about the ritual. There was one part that I came across where and it's like you still wait, it's like they continue to live on in our organs or something like that after they've conducted that ritual. It's like, yeah, they continue to live on inside of us, which is pretty grim and dark. But anyways, these people are not good people. And I feel like Chell is just impressionable and dumb enough that he kind of just goes along with their plans. But I would dare say that he's also not a good person, because I mean, after he finds out that they've killed his family, he's just kind of he's shocked and horrified by it, that they're monsters. But what does he really do about it, right?
He does nothing. He still goes along with it.
So Wootsek is drawn to the pain and suffering that they cause, and he decides to relocate the Hutts, but then they have something in store for Wootsek. The last sentence is so Final Fantasy, yeah. Makano Seppo. Hello.
Hey.
Wutsek gets ensnared in what's known as an anti-force void. It says, incredulously, inexorably, this is on page 760, Wutsek was pulled into the ship just as the spirits of the Rennick nobles had been, for the anti-force void works strongest on force entities. There, the adamant crystal acted as a cage. Upon seeing that the dancing agglomeration of lights that was Wutsek could not escape, Suzel and his family shouted in loud, triumphant voices, congratulating one another on their success. Even Mavin was in good spirits, commending Chell on a job well done. Now we must return what we have taken, Suzel announced exultantly. Then very soon we will watch a celestial die.
Pretty sure that does.
That sounds right.
But let me see the actual.
I believe.
Yes. Feed, Suzel commanded the ship. To the horror of the huts below, it appeared as if Ardos was attacking its lover, the star called Ivona. Killing her, shrinking her, draining her essence until shockingly Ivona was dead and the planetary bodies and system were reacting in accordance. But doing so would also destroy Varl, which is why I made the comment that I did earlier. Because it says, as Ardos, harmed by the destruction of its sister star, was just beginning to expel its gaseous external layers, which would shortly start to cause devastation to the planets in the system, one of which was inhabited, that being Varl.
Mm-hmm.
So Wutsek's been trapped, but then they go back to return the great life jewel, and it's like Chell could not have known that when he'd earlier lost the great life jewel, Cornus, its companion Carnal, had begun to scream, and of course that causes issues, right? As a result of this, Zakchik, Rand, and Rennick, and numerous other worlds behind the Red Nebula in the heart of the True Sith territory came under meteor bombardment, catalyzed by the Azreth Angjen and Darif Midwan rituals that the Five had used on the nobles of Rennick.
Rip.
R.I.P. indeed. When Suzel returns the Great Life Gem, like it stops, all the devastation stops. And then it says the meteor barrage immediately stops. So at that point, then it says that was when the room lit up with a rutilant light from the crimson tegument. 3 sorcerers of Rand emerged, and like these guys are basically lich lords, right? Like they are undead lords. These sorcerers of Rand. It says they're little more than animated corpses with ghastly vermilion orbs, which is very cool.
Freaky.
And they have a conversation with Suzel, and they basically, what do they do? Do they invite him? I think.
Yeah, they asked him to join them.
Right. And I think he has his sights set on greater goals, and so he declines them. He says, like, maybe one day. And then they kind of tell him prophetically, like, you will never return to Rennick. But there was one part that I really, really loved that I thought was just really great writing. I'm going to try and go to it. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read this part. Let me see if I can pull it up. Here we go. Okay. Only a smattering of ancient knowledge is concealed in the castles of this world, said the first of the crowned lich lords, grinning hideously. If you prove wise, mayhaps you will take the black pilgrimage and come to the great Acropolis in the unlighted depths of distant Rand, the Temple of Darkness, conserved by the worthiest of acolytes who have passed the fiery gorges of Bis. There you may trapesy the haunted wilderness of Sin, where the sanguivorous shades creep and the infernal star gleams, and peruse the colossal library of Zimimar to converse with the primordial wardens of knowledge, who endlessly read the 9 forbidden books with eyes that never shut. That's like Hellraiser stuff there.
Oh, that's
endlessly
that's
read
Hellraiser,
read the 9 forbidden books with eyes that never shut.
So I've now figured out my Cenobite form. It is I am forced, my eyes forced open, reading Dawn of the Jedi forever.
Okay, it's not that bad.
That's me, but Bounty Hunter Wars.
Oh, see, fair enough.
Me with the Corellian trilogy. Although I thought the Solo Kid stuff was really good, but
The Corellian trilogy, yeah. I can't
love
think of
the
anything
Solo
that, like, even when I reread Children of the Jedi and Planet Twilight, I actually had a pretty good time. Like, they weren't good, but I enjoyed
Approaching Storm.
For
Yes.
Matt Wilkins, it would be
actually,
Night Owl.
Approaching Storm was, when I was a kid, it was like the worst book. I could not get through it.
The exciting prequel to
which is crazy because it's not like I have no issues with Alan Dean Foster's prose. Like I reread Splinter of the Mind's Eye last year and I thought it was fantastic. But there you go.
I don't even it's not Approaching Storm was just kind of like a letdown. Like, it was just not great. Honestly, Fatal Alliance is what I should be against, because Fatal Alliance was like torture.
Overlord,
yeah.
Frankie. Overlord. Project Overlord. DLC you're talking about.
Very cool.
Oh, you're talking about Mass Effect.
Yeah.
So Suzal turns down the Sorcerers of Rand, and they prophetically tell him he's never going to return to Rennick, and he leaves to go back to the Hallowed Destroyer, Nil Afaras, as we've been calling it. Yeah, it's called Overlord. And we're told it was then the fastest ship in the galaxy. She's the fastest ship in the galaxy. Under Suzal's skillful guidance, they drew closer to the black heart of the unknown regions. The inmost part with the bleeding crimson nebula of Paran and the gulping rift of Valtalu. That's where that giant statue of the sinister statue of Corman Lau is. Yet littered with the
Lau.
That's right, with the ruins of ancient stellar spires and the fleets of decaying ships. It says Wutzek remains silent throughout because he's a prisoner now. So the thrice uttered curse of Telotny had come to pass, and it was at this time that he heard the call of Belot.
No.
So he heard. That's even worse. I didn't even know if he heard it, but now we're told that he heard it, and he couldn't do anything about it.
I was reading it. I was like, no. I was like,
He says like that meme of Matthew McConaughey. It's like, no.
So he's in this angle trap, or angel trap, as Mavin liked to call it. Angels to some, demons to others. Sorry.
Oh, Al, I got it. It's like the Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, no. And Abeloth's just going down the dark path. He's like, no.
Oh, from Interstellar? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
No.
You know what's funny about this? Like, Wutzek is kind of like a Cenobite because he's an angel.
But he's also called a Force Demon.
Force Demon.
Right?
Angels to some, demons to others.
Demons to others. That's one of the best speeches in like horror movie history.
I love it. I'm
awesome.
I'm a big fan of that movie. The first one particularly, but even the other ones have a soft spot.
Wutzek says
I like the second one a lot.
Wutzek's like, why did I not visit her earlier?
Then
why did she wait so
cool.
long to call upon
Yeah,
me? And
those two.
like, come on. Like, what the hell?
Why did these unbased creatures have to imprison me now? Did I use that right? Is that
Yes.
Why did
I gotta petition
these rizless humans?
No cook in their bone.
I'm gonna petition Joe to correct that instead of based creatures. Why did these unbased creatures?
these
Unbased, no skibidi.
I'm totally kidding.
No, that's so sad though.
It is.
Like,
I know.
we
Yeah.
heard
No,
it.
please, let's grieve. Continue.
I'm sorry. I gotta.
No, let's grieve. Let's do it. This is a big thing. It's not a small thing. So let's talk about it.
It's a big thing, especially for me, because like I remember like last stream or something. Yeah, we talked about how she was gonna go with him, and then like she felt so hurt that he didn't answer, and the fact that he heard it just it breaks my heart. It really does.
It's like she got her little cat backpack on, and she had her stuffed animal ready, and she was standing by the sidewalk.
And she was gonna bring her little friends with her that she made, and I was.
It's like Amy Pond in Doctor Who, waiting for the Doctor to return, but in this version, he never came back.
You know,
or Justice League Unlimited. Steve Trevor, although he gets to see Diana right before he dies, but still, they sure killed him.
When we started Supernatural Encounters, I did not think any heartbreak would come of it, and well, here we are.
Really? You didn't? Oh man.
No, not like this at least.
Yeah.
Like, It's so sad. Sorry.
So Suzal goes deeper into the unknown regions, but gets trapped in the idiosyncratic. Yeah, I mean, of course, the ship gets trapped in that idiosyncratic snare of that inimitable singularity the Celestials had woven earlier in the book. They had woven that like snare and basically that cage, so they get trapped in it.
We glanced over some little interesting tidbits.
Sure, let's go for it. Let's go back for it.
Says Belot, meanwhile, had brooded and seethed in her imprisonment long enough, and those few that found their way to Vitae did not come away unscathed, if they came away at all. The Tharut hive would be tasked by the son and daughter to rebuild Belot's prison, but she escaped more than once in the Kaimudon and following eras, at which times the firstborn would help in containing her. But with the passage of the ages, the greatest part of their powers were spent and faded. And each case she'd grown more terrible and mad, and they were left with but a faint hope that galactic war would not be reignited to break her bonds, or that the Celestials would return, for Horlus had departed to provide succor to another galaxy, and Wutzek had not been heard of in long aeons. So it's like the son and the daughter were not the only ones to, in the beginning at least, to help imprison her. There were help from everyone else with the elder races.
Yeah. And I just want to say that that this kind of puts a lot of things into perspective here, because the Indecta era, which we talked about earlier, is about 17,000 BBY to 15,000 BBY, and the Kaimudon era is from 15,000 BBY to 11,987 BBY, and then we get into the Pius Dea era. But before Indecta, it's the Great Manifest period, and then it was the Expansionist era. So there's basically Pre-Republic, Expansionist era, Great Manifest period, Indecta.
Do you have these all listed?
No, I am looking through the book. Then the Kaimudon era. Then we have the Pius Dea era, and then we have the Ductivus era, which I believe is
Ductavis
era.
Ductavis.
Yeah. Reinatus period, the Subterra period. The 100-year the Mandaron period. Oh man, there's a lot of periods in the Republic. Then we have the post-Mandaron period, and then we get into Tales of the Jedi, 5,000 BBY, the Old Sith Wars, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of just like a very quick rundown.
Period.
So we can assume that like Abeloth like broke out during a lot of those, and most likely during the Pius Dea as well.
During the Republic, though, like while the Republic is around, when I had the impression that Abeloth was breaking out like pre-Republic, right? But everything we knew about the timeline is a lie, and I think that was implied earlier that the timeline is actually like more truncated than we think it is.
Yes,
that it wasn't this like like hundreds of thousands of years in the past, which kind of makes sense because then that's like just a lot of dead time that's not really accounted for, right?
The first time she broke out was pre-Republic though.
Yeah,
because it was
because it was the formation, right? That was the catalyst to form it.
Yeah,
one of the catalysts.
She like helped the Rakata with the Star Forges and everything, and then that led to everything that happened.
See, in my mind, I thought that was the last time that she broke out.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I would have expected.
And they, just every time the current of the Force changes and war erupts, and they say that, and then obviously Jason's war was like the most recent one.
Right.
Well, I think it was the amalgamation of the fact that it was Vong.
Yeah.
That. And then a couple other things.
Yeah, it has been a while too.
Yeah.
Hey, well, things are bad when brother turns against sister, and sister has to kill brother. Like that is just
Shakespearean.
Yeah, and plus Jason, with him like changing the future and everything, obviously that kind of screwed a lot up too. And the destruction of Centerpoint definitely.
They wasted Vandal Savage in the Flash. That's all
I was gonna say. Wasn't he played by like
or
Dean
Legends
Cain
Tomorrow
in Smallville or something like that? I feel like he was played by Dean Cain in Smallville, which is
that
also
sounds right.
Horlus went to another galaxy as well. Where he went to Hyperion, didn't he?
Did he? Do we know?
Didn't they say that Wutzek and Horlus had went there?
I don't know what they're doing with their print media these days because it feels like the ones have left Hyperion. Okay, that's
the Dark Lord or the father of
The Dark
Shadows
Lord.
Horus
has
is
taken
not-
over Hyperion.
Has it? Okay, we gotta reclaim it. The Mandalorian and the Grogu movie will reclaim it for the ones.
Truly.
Horus saw Hyperion Jason and was like, maybe this one ain't worth saving. You know what I'm saying? It's not. This one where this is the mulligan, we call it.
Is Hyperion Jason Kylo Ren?
Yes.
More.
I was
More.
more referring to the child, the Twi'lek.
That thing.
Literally that Jason.
Oh, Jason Syndulla.
Okay.
Oh,
both.
All right, that
Sorry.
one.
There's certain things we can't talk about on my streams, and he is one of them.
No, but like every
Fair
time, do you remember in A New Hope when they bring Chewie up to the detention center and the officer's like, "Where are you taking this thing?" Like that's me whenever I see that.
Where are you taking this
other
thing?
Jason? Where are you taking this?
Wasn't
thing?
he in live action? I have never seen
Yes.
that show, so when I saw like a poster, and I was like, "What is this?"
Every time I see that thing, I get chills.
So back on track, we have the 5 that are basically trapped at this point, and we're told on page 763 that an epoch would pass before the 5 found themselves released, during which time many strange and eventful things had occurred in the galaxy. Do you want to read the next few lines, Ken? Just the next few pieces of dialogue. The how long have we been here?
Sure. Can you put it up on the screen for me?
I can. Yeah. Hold on.
Thank you.
What I said it was 763. I have to go there. Oh wait, I am there. Okay.
There's some really cool stuff. I love this little section. Some really cool mention that was deployed in.
Where do you want me to start?
Right here. Okay. How long?
How long have we been here? Suzal asked of the others, who slowly awoke as if from a drunken stupor. It was Kubri who suggested that they ask the ship. Impossible to know, the ship responded. The stars do not behave as they should. I surmise it is well over 10 millennia. Over 10 millennia? Exclaimed Mavin as the others looked on in dismay. We haven't aged, noted Chokla, gazing worriedly into a mirror. The ship explained, caught in the cosmic oblique prepared by the Celestials for the Ancient Ones within knots of the distorted space-time continuum. No time has passed for us. You are fortunate that the outskirts of the region have come undone. What's done is done, Suzal declared. We need the great life jewels to depart the seals placed on this realm. Can you aid me in retrieving them? They are no longer on Rennick. What? He growled. How do you know?
Yeah, so I was gonna stop you there, but basically they wake up thousands of years later at this point. They're kept in cryo. It's not cryo. It's like some kind of force stasis field, I assume.
But yeah, they're just kind of frozen,
chilling
there. Yeah, they're like in suspended animation, sort of.
It's the same energy as when I'm supposed to wake up at 7:30 and I look at my phone and it's 9:54 and I'm like,
Is it like it's like that scene in Fellowship of the Ring where Frodo's just down and out and we just see that fade away to Elrond and he's talking.
Yes. Yes.
An epoch passed. It's like someone used that picture to describe the period between Christmas and New Year's, and I thought that was the perfect description of that time. Comfort Eagle, were you responding to me when I said
the Dark Lord?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's either that or my Horus, which I highly doubt.
So we're told that Sephi shield guards came and stole the great life jewels from Rennick, and that they basically guard them against evil, which is very based of them. And then we get it here. They call it the Crimson Forever, which is crazy because the Crimson Forever is doesn't that come that comes in the Marvel comics, but is also I think featured in Marvel 108, and the fact that now this is tied to Carnal and Cornus, which is very cool. I thought. Oh, thank you. Awesome. And then we're told that the seals were first weakened. The seals that trapped them by one called Darth Nihilus.
Oh,
Awesome.
so cool.
Awesome.
I love that. So like the celestial seals were broken by Darth, or like weakened for the first time by Darth Nihilus.
He says it has taken me many years, so I assume
cool,
like what,
it makes
4,000
sense
years?
that it would be him too.
Because
So,
of
like,
the
when
the
he's-
force tears? Is that why?
So
I
I
don't
think
know.
when he creates Visas and destroys Qatar, I think that because it's such a huge loss of life. As far as I know,
Yeah,
that's the
maybe
first time,
that it was
first time he
that,
does that.
or what if it was like the creation of himself? Yeah, no, I would say it was probably Qatar that probably did it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's my guess because it was such a big event and it was such like a So I think that's so cool. Little like because Darth Nihilus is a really interesting Sith and a really cool character just by design, like with the mask. So it's like I loved seeing him mentioned here.
I really like that Unseen Unheard comic from Tales. It's short, but it's so well done.
Good. It might be my favorite Tales. It's either that or the one with Villy. I go back and forth. I have problems.
Isn't
Those two characters, those are my downfalls.
There's a Ben Skywalker Tales comic, isn't there?
There is.
I could have sworn there was.
I'm not sure.
Where he's like tracking down like a lost lightsaber or something.
Yeah, there is. I believe
Oh,
so.
I want to read that.
Oh my! I need more Ben Skywalker in my life.
And then obviously there's like the storyteller. I love the storyteller.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's just fun to theorize where that is, like or how far into the future that is, and like how 3PO got there. Like it's cool.
Yeah. I know. I always wanted to place the storyteller, but again, I don't know. Maybe Joe knows.
And maybe we will know by the end of this.
And that makes Zakchik the previously unnamed planet of the Red Nebula from Marvel Star Wars number 50. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's so cool how the Crimson Forever is now linked to these Crystal Riders, essentially.
That's really cool, yeah.
So we have Nihilus existence probably be a better fit rather than the destruction of Qatar.
Well, I mean, that's true, but like they make it sound like he did something.
Yeah.
I got to brush up on my KOTOR 2 lore. I barely remember it. So we're told the seals are weakened by Darth Nihilus. And we're told that Suzel can never return to Rennick, the ship told them. The spirits of those you'd murdered endure on the world as revenants, and they will remember you with a black hatred in their spectral hearts. You would be utterly destroyed. So this is where that prophecy comes back in, that foreshadowing from the Sorcerers of Ran when they said he'll never come back, essentially. You can never go home again, Suzel. Yeah, I love Shadows and Light as well, and Skippy the Jedi Droid.
Well, Marcel, before you keep going,
yeah,
I've been up since 1 a.m. So
you're gonna dip. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. You are always welcome. And again, happy belated birthday.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Always a great time.
Yeah. Same.
Take care, man.
Sleep well.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, man.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Do they ever reference the Marvel cosmic stuff in this book? I would dare say yes. I think that's the.
There's probably something in there.
Yeah, I don't know if like specifically like what are you referring to?
They sort of reference DC cosmic level stuff, like with the red and the green. I know that's like however long ago, but that a little bit.
So after that we also get we're told a bit about so Suzel asks, he's like, what has happened to this Darth Nihilus? And the ship replies, destroyed. The ship replied, a new line of Darths had begun, inaugurated by one who has betrayed the thousands of Stygian Sith before him and adopted an ideology known as the Rule of Two, a master to wield power and a student to crave it. In this way do they believe they will ascend to the mastery of the galaxy. And then as to the true Sith, they are yet in the shadow worlds, manipulating events from afar, awaiting the awakening of the ancient ones. And that's in page 763 to 764. shotgun device is, I believe, in whoa, okay, hold on. It is in Supernatural Encounters. Nova Core, no, that's not in here. That's from like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Yeah, no, it doesn't like incorporate any
Nothing that direct.
Yeah, Marvel or DC stuff like that. Happy belated birthday to Alex. Yes. So they escape this web that they were caught in, and they enter Illithurian, outer space. And
oh, sorry.
yes, no.
They also mention like how the true Sith are still there in the Shadow Worlds. They say it says the true Sith are there yet in the Shadow Worlds, manipulating events from afar, awaiting the awakening of the Ancient One. So even this far ahead in the era that we know, they're still there.
Yes.
So that's pretty freaky.
That's
like,
terrifying.
Yeah, like throughout everything we know, they're all just kind of vibing in there.
What is Luke even bringing balance to if the true Sith are still out there? I don't know. I don't know how this sits with me that they're still around. I have to see how it plays out because I'm sure there's gonna be more about it.
They're like, I would say they're the adversaries of the final chosen one, whereas the chosen one or the chosen one of this era, like being Luke, is like, like that his battles were a different era, and like Anakin's battles were a different era, of course. So like these true Sith will most likely be the conflict of the final chosen
the
one.
final era, conflict. Or at least they're the ones that herald the ancient ones, right? The immortal gods of the Sith. So to answer your question, Titus, the true Sith in Supernatural Encounters is it's used in dual purposes. So Master Nostoral refers to the true Sith as being vitiate and the pure-blooded Sith that appear in SWTOR, but there's also another sect of Sith that live in the unknown regions, or essentially trapped in the unknown regions, led by the sorcerers of Rand. And this is essentially more akin to what Chris Avellone envisioned. They're truly like horrors. Some of them may be Sith purebloods, or at least previously were Sith purebloods, but they're led by essentially like necromantic kings and lich lords and horrors of that nature. We don't know a ton about them yet. We're just starting to learn more about them.
Yeah.
But they're out there, essentially, the true Sith, and this might be what Creo was referring to in KOTOR 2.
I think,
not Vitiate's empire.
Yeah. I think this is so cool. Like I think it's so cool that they're still out there, and they've yet to make their move, but they're still kind of just like they're in waiting for these ancient powers to awake, and just manipulating what they can. And I think that's so cool, but it's like so freaky. And like I'm a big fan of that kind of thing where there's like a greater evil waiting in the wings for a future generation's battles.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. And like obviously they're not going to make themselves known because like for a future story. And I think these true Sith are going to make like such a interesting adversary for the final battle for the universe,
Yeah.
I know we bring it up every single time, but like, man, this is so much such a better compromise on the idea of the true Sith than it's just more of the guy.
Yeah.
So Revan went after Vitiate's true Sith rather than the OG intent. And that's true. I mean, and I think what we're going to find out is that they wanted it that way. They wanted to maintain their anonymity and make Revan go after basically a patsy.
They probably did that. Like they probably manipulated the whole event.
The events,
to get it off their back. Just like how, like Jason, like Darth Kaitis was like the lightning rod to take away attention from the one Sith. So like Valkorion is kind of like the same thing to get attention away from the true Sith.
Yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to, and it's probably the big and like when people talk about the things they don't like about Supernatural Encounters, and usually people who have actually never read it, but like when they talk, I've noticed that they never mention the true Sith because that I guess like they don't appreciate the deep lore that that there is this. And it's very radical that there's this other group of Sith that are out there that are even more powerful than the Sith that we see in Tales of the Jedi, because they still adhere to the old ways
Yeah.
and still praise and revere and worship the immortal gods of the Sith.
Yeah.
Whereas the Sith and the Stygian Caldera, the ones that we know from Tales of the Jedi and SWTOR and KOTOR, have lost their way. Essentially, they're basically like corrupted Sith. They're not like pure. Pure blooded for sure, but not, their ideals and their belief system is completely corrupted and degenerated into whatever it is. So I think that's, it's an idea that takes a bit of getting used to, but I do find it cool. I just don't know how I feel about them still being alive in present day. I have to sit with that.
And it's cool, like how you said earlier, like they still serve these, or like take orders from these like necromantic like beings that are basically like darkness incarnate, who are like second to like the Father of Shadows. Like they serve like darkness. Like the Sith that we know can say they do that all they want, and then they serve like the dark side, but like these people are like they serve the darkness itself. Like
they serve the darkness itself, right? Well, it's that concept we talked about at the beginning of the stream. It's unity versus dual. Oh God, what was it? Like that dualism concept, right? Like they serve the dark side because they identify them in opposition to the light, whereas like in the unity concept of the true Sith, there is only the darkness. That's it, right? And to answer this, I don't know. I mean, like maybe Kreia herself was mistaken, or maybe.
Well, to sort of, I
also
think,
in fairness, we haven't gone to the area yet where they talk about, like, we haven't gone. We're still what, 17,000 BBY or something like that. We haven't gone to 5,000 BBY.
We're still pretty far back.
Yeah.
I think I think Titus raises a fair point. I would say that it's sort of. It's sort of an untenable situation either way, because I really don't see what Kreia was talking about in the SWTOR Sith, like at all. Like she's talking about them like they're so beyond anything we could comprehend, and then when we get to SWTOR, it's just guys. So I think it's not. I understand where Titus is coming from, but I think that's like, it goes back to SWTOR. Oh, my favorite. Just keeps going back.
It's like when what did Han Solo say in like the Force Awakens? Like, some say he went to go find the first temple of the Jedi or something like that.
I don't know.
How sweet.
I found this.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Like before, I knew about like the whole thing, like with the true Sith and like not getting that vision like really fulfilled with the original writer and everything, and I knew about that, but I just never really thought much of it. But now, like learning more about them and like seeing what could have, like what is for them, like that would, like the actual true Sith that like are closer to the vision of the original writer. I think it's all like, it's so fascinating to know about these, like this fact of Sith that is just out there. Absolutely. Like that are like, better than all the rest.
Yeah, a lot of these ideas don't come from nowhere, right? Like Joe's picking up on threads and pulling on them and then weaving them back into continuity, right? So I mean, whether or not you like what he's done is a separate issue from, like, he's not just like pulling it out of thin air.
Exactly. And that's an argument I've gotten into with a certain somebody who shall remain nameless, where they think that it's just pure like pulling it out of his butt, like there's nothing to it. It's never been established. It's all just him. And I'm like, no, like they're like Joe's picking up on these like leftover threads and putting them into like the bigger picture, you know, and weaving them into this big knot of Star Wars that we know.
Yeah. I think this is right, by the way. I just wanted to say, I think this is, I don't know for certain yet, but I think this is correct. Yeah.
But no, it's like finding these, there's in the grand tapestry of Star Wars, like if you just like think of it as like a big puzzle, there's a few pieces missing, and Joe picks up those pieces and puts them in there,
Just to kind of bounce off what you said, Maxine. one of the Star Wars channels I follow is 100% Star Wars. I like his stuff a decent bit. Whenever he talks about SWTOR, and he's nowhere near as kind to it as I am, or any of us rather. But he's always talking about how much we missed out on a KOTOR 3 with like the true Sith as the villains. And to be honest, I get where he's coming from.
Well, tell him to read this.
Yes, obviously. I don't get behind the idea that we should have a KOTOR 3 now. I think
yeah,
that ship
probably
is
not
dead.
now. I don't think it would do it justice.
I think that's correct.
But what?
The KOTOR 2
Yes,
takes
that
place
is-
5
yeah.
years after KOTOR 1. Yeah.
I think so. I'd have
Yeah.
to look.
So no
That
KOTOR
sounds
3
right.
now. You were saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. With the True Sith thing, it's nice to have a version of the True Sith that sort of reflects that vision.
Yeah.
How it'll fit overall, that's fair. That's a fair question. But
Yeah, I guess
And
we'll
it's
see.
nice to have something.
I love the idea that they are basically the final adversary of like the
Oh.
last conflict that will truly decide the fate of the universe. Is like it's like these guys are like, the ones that you're
That's
gonna
gonna be awesome.
Like I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that, and like who this final chosen one is, and what this final battle for the universe is gonna look like. But man, does it sound cool! Like I would kill for like an NJO type like size like series like of books, 19 books or something. Hell, make it 100 books. I don't care. Like
Just keep making
like,
books.
yeah, like a whole like NJO like level story of just the final battle that decides literally the universe. Like
I think NJO would be inappropriate for it. I think it still has to be done like sort of in that like mythological narrative in the same way that he did book 3. Right? That's just my like almost like a book of Revelations, right?
Yeah.
It would have to be kind of like in
Apocalyptic
allegorical.
encounters.
Give me a book
Yeah.
this size, just detailing that whole conflict. I want to know every little detail about this final conflict.
Level 80
and,
Sith
like,
warriors with
what
armor
happened.
that reference events thousands of years in the future due to the in-game cartel market tie-ins. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes, true, but
Sound like there is always a truer Sith. That's
true.
perfect. That is perfect.
no true Sith fallacy. We forgot a cornerstone. Anyway, sorry.
So back to supernatural encounters. They enter Illithurian, and there they come across an entity known as the Void Horror, which I think we see in like what book 2, right? Like,
Can I
is
read
the Void
this?
Horror from the Marvel comic by any chance?
Okay.
oh, is it okay? Go for it, Max.
So they ask the ship what it is. Well, first it says the Nil Aphorus took them past the hulks of dozens destroyed craft down to the nearest body, a heaving and nidorous mass covered by a rippling sea of feelers and an undulating dermis. As they drew nearer, they looked in horror as hundreds of eyes and mouths puckered open and shut. And then they ask him what it is, the ship, and he says, "None now know. It is a nameless evil that the entities of this realm refer to as the Void Horror. Some believe it is one of the powerful titans, while others speak of it as a deformed and nameless brood of Uradril, prophesied to devour the galaxy. Yet some say it is the eldest of the soul worms, or the sovereign Sarlacc, mother of all Sarlaccs, Vixus, Blixie, and fresher maws, and still other dismiss it as a silent disease from adolescence by the spore of now. But the darkest whispers tell of one called Abath, the source of all uncleanness and progenitor of the cancer god, which ancient legends suggest is a fallen celestial so weighed down by hate and guilt that it morphed and transformed into the charnel god of fools."
That's crazy.
Ugh,
Awesome.
freaky.
That's awesome.
And so they speak with the Void Horror. It's like, does it even have a language? We know all tongues. Thrummed a heavy and loud voice that rumbled throughout the ship. And it wants to consume them, but Suzal makes a deal with them.
Can you imagine this big thing just floating through other space? Like just
Is
oh
this from that one issue of the Marvel comic where Leia and Luke end up on a ship and they fight something, and then they see this big weird cancer thing, and then they banish it into another
Do you have a
dimension.
picture of it?
No.
Fuck. Ooh, sorry.
That's all good. We're told that the Void Horror cannot feast on Wutzek, the Force Demon. You should never have brought him here, for he will swallow us all in oblivion.
Ooh.
And then Suzal is like, he is well secured. I have another offer. We'll give you sacrifices on a more regular schedule. How can mere humans do this? I sense that you want something in return. Indeed, for it is said that you feast only on fools, and we are not fools, not all of us. They basically want to they want their immortality, right? And so in exchange for his power, yeah, they siphon off some of the excess life force that he has stored, so that they may live on ever the Void Horror's humble servants. And he says, "So it shall be," the entity replied greedily. "If you do not meet these criteria, however, I will see to it that you are digested over the course of many millennia." I got like Sarlacc vibes.
Yeah.
So I found it. I found the picture.
The picture? Oh, there's a picture of it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Here,
man.
They never properly explain how, but there's many things she is hyper aware of. Yeah, Kreia is one of the most fascinating characters in the saga, next to Vergier.
You know, I think that's fair, Titus. You know,
two of my favorite Sith Lords. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Kidding.
So here's the thing.
Ooh, it looks gross.
This is from the Marvel comics. I don't know if this is the same thing. Somebody in the chat, if you know, please correct me.
The other thing
As
sounds
always.
bigger. Like it sounds bigger, and it sounds like it looks uglier.
I want to say, because I think it's called the Void Horror, or it's from a comic called Into the Void or something like that, not the novel.
Dawn of the Jedi.
I knew someone was gonna say it.
Oh yeah, Planescape Torment is one of my favorite games of all time. Perhaps even my favorite might be. But it's just a fantastic game. I replayed it a couple of years ago, and it's just an incredible experience to replay it as an adult. So to cap off chapter 72, to finish it off, essentially what happens is Wutzek kind of steps in, and instead of allowing this Void Horror to consume people, he gives off a bit of his own energy in return, so that the Void Horror thinks he's consuming people, but he's actually just siphoning off energy from Wutzek, is how I read that. And we're also told he tries to work on Chokla and Chell, because they're, probably if there's any hope for any of them, it's those two. But they put a stop to that. Said he had some small success, but only for a short time before they were broken by the other three in ways too awful to enumerate.
We also see that that Wutzek had a vision. He saw like the death of like the ones, and like the passing of the Celestials, and the rise of the Jedi Order. So like he knows that they died.
Yes.
Didn't even think of Bella in this time. Just saying.
So even though Wutzek had absorbed the suffering of those victims that are brought to feed the Void Horror into himself, he learned to manage it, and that's how the chapter ends. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know where to find it. I don't want to pull up a legal site on my stream. Sorry.
I might have it. I just don't know how to present it. I have it, but
it's okay.
But like essentially, what happens is
I know.
Oh, thank you. But what happens is essentially like Han, Luke, and Leia and Chewie. Well, I don't even know if Luke. I don't think Luke's there, but like Han and Leia and Chewie fly into like the Hell Hoop, and then like they go aboard the Nil Aferis, and then like the five basically want to kill them, and like they're probably gonna try and sacrifice them to Abath. But then Chewbacca frees Wutzek. But well, Wutzek shows Chewbacca like the mysteries of the universe first, and then Wutzek comes out and slaughters all of the five, and then escapes. And well, they blow up the Nil Aferis first too,
right?
And then Wutzek escapes off into space after countless millennia. So it's like, what did Wutzek do? afterwards.
I don't
Where do
know,
you
but
look?
I just love how these comics are now way more relevant than they ever were before.
Yeah, Talani throws a
Before they were
shade.
like this weird
Okay.
fever dream. You read
Yeah.
and you're like, oh.
And a lot of those comics, like I see people use like, oh, like the old expanded universe was too stupid and it was weird, and I'm like, and they use those as an example, and I'm like, well, you chose the most like strange things to kind of.
You know what? You know what though? You know why I reject
Say
that?
my name. Sorry, Wikipedia calls this the Five's unique worship. Say my name.
The Hallowed Destroyer.
You want to know why I brush aside that criticism, specifically of the Devil World stuff, not of like
Devil
I don't know,
World's
Skippy
rocks.
the Jedi Droid. Skippy the Jedi Droid is like another thing, and it's good, and I won't hear any other discussion of it. But the Devil Worlds were written by Alan Moore. All of these people love this person. On everything else, I am the so I don't want to hear it. If you're just telling me about
Wars.
if you're gonna be like, oh my god, I love Alan Moore, you love this too. I don't care. You're doing it. I'm forcing you to love this.
I hate the complaint that something is too weird for Star Wars. I hate that because like this galaxy is literally infinite. Like nothing is too weird.
Return of the Jedi features a teddy bear which gets brutally killed, and you watch its friend mourn over it. That's bizarre.
It's so bad.
It's awesome though.
But no, like I hate that. Like people using these amazing stories to basically crap on the EU, even though Devil Worlds rocks and they're so much fun to read. And now
they're my favorite Alan Moore stories by a long shot.
The only Alan Moore stories I've read, to be honest.
And this book only enhances it, you know?
Wutzek fled to the Celestial Realm to rebalance his energy. I mean, it's possible, yeah.
I mean, he probably didn't, but I'd like to think that maybe he went back to Abeloth and then realized she was too far gone and then just left her there.
That's way sadder. Like you see, like he sees her
causing myself heartbreak.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, right? I mean, like, and that's the beauty of it, and I feel like there were a couple authors that were asked to write for the expanding universe where probably didn't really care a ton for Star Wars and yet still put like their heart and soul into whatever they did. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I always felt like maybe someone like L. Neil Smith, for instance, like I don't know if he was a huge Star Wars fan, but those books are fantastic. And
Dude, isn't there a picture of like Wutzek like incinerating one of them? Like, can we find that?
Call
here. Let me pull up. Because Alex sent me something, but
I'm pretty sure there's a comic panel where like one of them is like running out of the room to be like, hey, like this like Wutzek got out, and then like it just like incinerates her like right there. And I'm pretty sure it's Chocolate.
Yeah, here I will pull it up. I gotta just clip it. But I got exactly what you're talking about, and it's wild.
So we get to see Wutzek in action, like incinerate some really bad people.
This is actually like pretty brutal. Man. Yeah, his Green Lantern stories in particular have been building blocks for Jeff Johns' DC stories. Yeah, I know. Raccoon's going through his garbage can. Wow, yeah, he's a pretty cantankerous guy. I'm not surprised that he was
scanned it's going through my garbage can.
Oh, it's Chocolate.
Oh
yeah.
Oh man.
That's straight out of Watchmen. Even though that's years later.
Hell died first, and it says it pulled him to pieces. Oh my god. A noiseless flash, brighter than a starburst. The chalk-haired girl is at its center, and she just gets incinerated. Wow.
Yeah. Well, rip, as you kids say.
Yeah, rip. Like
rip.
I mean, she got ripped into tiny microns at this point.
And she says, "Ooh-ah!" Ooh-ah! And she dies.
I'm sure, like, I want to see Maven. How did Maven die? Do we have that picture?
But wizards in bathrobes wielding swords made out of light, deeply
Exactly.
fantastical in the vein of space opera. Take the weirdness of Star Wars, stripped at its very heart. I tend to agree, but I don't. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just being contrarian. I love being contrarian.
Yeah, Swamp Thing is pretty darn good. I enjoy it. So let's see if I can find Maven's death. Do they show like kids getting?
Well, this kid's a jerk, and he's like 10 million years old, so.
It's also Marvel UK, and I think they were a little bit more.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, Han looks nothing like Han in this comic. Okay, here. So,
Han.
Princess Leia.
Princess Leia.
Luke.
I really love Miracle Man. Devil Worlds can be found on Marvel Unlimited.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I have it on Marvel Unlimited.
Turn into a Pilash.
So like that, like yeah, that's like Suzal, Kuberi, and oh god, what's his name?
Maven. How frail your flesh, my tormentors. How transient, and now that it is gone, only your souls survive within me forever. Ah, yes, my noble rescuers. Shall I kill you too, perhaps? I have not killed in a long time. No, perhaps not. As Wutzek. I love it.
Wutzek's like, he means nothing to me.
Yeah. But that's such a fun comic. And now knowing how evil the 5 were, and just how like twisted they are, it's like, it's so good. You know, it's justice to these really bad people getting incinerated by Wutzek. So
here, I'm gonna try and get one more thing to show. I believe it's the last panel, or last few panels rather. Right here. Okay, so it's exploding in the center of the boundless Holocaust. The demon Wutzek floats unharmed, triumphant, free. It's powerful enough to do that, and we freed it. Han, have we just done what I think we've done? I don't know, Princess. Let's just be glad that we've done it in an Empire-held sector of space. The end.
Wow, we just caused an apocalypse, but it's over there. We'll be all right.
It's over there. We'll be fine. I just want to know what happened to him after this, and maybe we'll find out, but who knows?
Yeah, I want to reiterate that I truly enjoyed Miracle Man. Speaking of more, Thunderman story, very dense jab at the comics industry.
It's so dense.
Of decoding. Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind reading that, just but with your decoder in mind, because I probably might not get some of the references. So yeah, I mean, there you have it. We've covered Interlude 3, chapters 70 to 72. It's amazing how these streams still take a long time to go through, but there's just a lot of material, and we really want to give it its due. And even then, I feel like we sometimes have to skirt over things just in the interest of time and trying to cover everything. But we are now 765 pages into Supernatural Encounters, the Trial and Transformation of Arhul Hextrophon. And we have, I think, what is this, number 14? 5 more streams planned with content covering the remainder of the book, as well as the appendices. And then we have one stream after that, stream number 20, which is going to be a reprise talking about sort of the entire book as a whole. So, I mean, before we pop off, we have time. We definitely have time for final thoughts. Al, you can go first.
Oh no, I just wanted to say, anyone in the chat who has any favorite moments from the past streams, let us know. We will try. I will try. I'm not going to put this on the rest of you. I will try to put together a highlight reel if people point out their favorite moments.
It's gonna be dope.
We got to do it before episode 19, definitely. But yes.
That anyway. we have a month and a half, so if not more. We'll be fine. Any other final thoughts, Al, before we
on
kick it off?
On the chapters.
It was pretty good. One of my notes here, if I bring it up, was literally, wow, a good story featuring Manon. Joe B making like Ryan Johnson, subverting expectations. I think that about sums it up.
And I think this is a fair a fair summation, right? Like Wutzek has the power to basically just transmute material and reality, right? And decides to not do anything nefarious with that, and therefore, if not evil, then certainly just neutral, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, Al is quite good at that. Ken, how about you? Any final thoughts?
Joe's prose is just beautiful. can never get enough of it.
Absolutely.
Ugh. Like the stories in here are great. Like everything with the Hell Hoop and Dark Jedi. Oh, his prose is just so beautifully written. It's so flowery. Oh man.
Absolutely.
Good.
Max, how about you?
Yeah, so these chapters are a lot of fun. They're short in terms of like when you're reading it, they're short. Chapter 72 being the longest, but there's a lot of awesome stuff in here. Like the Zendor stuff is a lot of fun, and seeing those connections, especially like for me, like my favorite one was like the Dark Underlord. Like that made me so excited. And then the things with the true Sith, and like we're kind of getting these like tidbits throughout different chapters, and it's so fascinating to learn about them. And then obviously we have these like the strange horrors of the progenitor's tale and everything. So it's all just beautifully written, and I love all the little tidbits of lore we're getting and all the strange things that occur in the galaxy. Because like the things that we knew from earlier streams, like all these ancient gods and the cosmic wars, they're now just a distant memory. So like we're seeing like things that were normal back then, like being like these strange rituals now, and like the dark powers have kind of gone into like a dormant state. So it's cool seeing like how everything's manipulated like by them still, like being like the true Sith. But these chapters were a lot of fun, and even more fun to cover. And next week should be just as fun. There's a lot of really cool stuff next week, so I look forward to getting into that.
Yes, to give you a sneak preview of next week, I will say Doroik Vong Prat.
Yes.
And with that, I guess I should give my own thoughts actually before we pop off. I mean, I don't really have much more to add than what everybody else has said, other than to say that I love the Progenitor's Tale and will hopefully write some fan fiction in the future expanding on it, because I think it's well worth doing. And would love to see it on screen someday. That would be just like a fever dream. But even like animated, I think it would just be incredibly creepy and just, I don't know, really, really resonated with me, that story. So that being said, I want to thank everybody who's been watching us. Thank you, everybody in the chats who contributed. Some really great discussion this time. Thank you, Comfort Eagle. Feeling is mutual. Love having you here. And thanks to my co-host and to Alex, who joined us earlier. And yep, thank you. And again, happy belated birthday to Alex. And we are now going to get our Chewbies out of here. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace.